It's pretty interesting.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening. As we do start every talk and trade, I would like to, as Luke sets up awesome. Okay, good. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to the elders, past, present, and future. It's one place that they are the custodians here, and I think it's very interesting because this is our last night of talk and trade here at 85 City Road, and I thank you all for coming here this evening and really supporting us in the last 8-9 months that this centre has been open, but we will be moving places to Stone and Chalk. So it shuts off tonight, we'll be closed for 2 days, and then we'll open up again on the 3rd of September at Stone and Chalk. So for all of you here, thank you for coming. There are more people coming in tonight because we've got 3 different events here. So we're starting off with Talk and Trade here, where we're all going to be talking about what's happening in crypto and blockchain world, and then we'll have Katrina Donaghy from Civic Ledger here to have a quick chat to talk about women and blockchain, and then we'll finish it off with our goodbye, farewell, 85 City Road. It is sad, I came here around just before it opened, probably October last year, and there was nothing here. There was no walls, no lights, no data projectors, no chairs.
And no community.
Oh, the community's been around for a while. There were quite a few people there, probably about 30 people here drinking. Martin invited me here, the ex-CEO, and he said, "John, we're launching here, please come." And I went in here and there was nothing. It was really gutted, it was just an open space, there was no breaks. Obviously the bank vault was there because this was an ex-bank, which is quite fitting for what we're doing here with cryptos and digital currency, where fiat money was kept over there. But now we've continued building the community, massive community that's coming, and we're all supporting each other. There's walls here, there's so many banners. As Karen and I always say, there's such a banner fest over here. It's not going to be a banner fest where we are before. Look, we're not closing. I'm getting a little emotional here, but we're not closing the centre. We are continuing the centre. We are going to keep continuing the great work that we're doing, supporting the startups, incubating the startups, delivering events, delivering education, and the co-working is going to be by a different place, but we will still be there to support. So we do have the startup network, so if you are a startup, you want to be having a hot desk there, please come join us or talk to us at the end. I see at the moment there are 3 people here with Blockchain Centre t-shirts. There are other people that support us and bought the t-shirt, but Karen, Luke and myself are here so to ask any questions at the end. So let me go through this, and as I said, we are a not-for-profit that opened up in 2014 and building the community from there, but this physical centre opened up in November last year. So our mission is to accelerate the global adoption of blockchain, and you're all part of that by being here and coming to meetups and going to our socials and just supporting us. You're helping us, make it all widespread and getting it to the wider public and getting people embracing it. So thank you for doing that. So the Blockchain Centre, we're education, incubation, and community events. That's our pillars of focus. We have our weekly talk and trade. As I said, this is the last one here at the centre. We will be continuing them every Wednesday, except for next week. We're taking a break just for us to resettle at Stone and Chalk. So we will go back on the 12th of September at Stone and Chalk, 710 Collins Street at 6 p.m. So nothing's changed, just the venue. We'll still be there. You'll still see our smiling faces. Crypto Mondays, we'll still have Bitcoin 101, Ethereum, then Monero, introduction to trading, and also mining. Education, introduction to blockchain, cryptocurrency, investing ICOs. I see a couple of people here who have been to the introduction to blockchain. So if anybody's interested in doing that next month, let me know and I'll put you in contact with some of the people here that have done that. We had one last Friday. So after tonight, I said we have Women in Blockchain, Goodbye City Road, 85. So Katrina Donaghy will be talking about talk and trade. This week has been a massive week so far of events. Today was the Blockchain APAC Enterprise Summit. There was so many events and so many different amazing speakers that were there. It's going to be our turn tomorrow. So for the Digital Innovation at Curate space for the festival, we're delivering 4 events. So morning, lunch, afternoon, and the evening. So the first one's going to be at 10 from 11:30. So we've got these startups pitching, except for Blockchain. They're too busy now, but the final spot there has been taken by Wiyumi from Harrison over there at the back. But so please come, hear them. There's some new ones there. If you haven't seen and heard any of that, please do come and support the startups there. On the 30th of August, it is tomorrow. 12:30 to 2, we've got Blockchain Ecosystem, just talking about who are the key players in the blockchain ecosystem. So we've got Karen and Akasha talking about the micro and macro level, who are the key players internationally, and who are the people that support the local communities here and create the communities in a local level. Alistair from RMIT is going to talk about the role of research and education in the ecosystem, and we've got a special guest, Monique Bachner from the Luxembourg Blockchain Association. So she's going to talk about the European ecosystem, and she's done a lot of work with the EU there. She's a lawyer, so if you want to hear more, please do come. All these 4 events are only $5, by the way, and there's tea and coffee and snacks that's available there. Then we'll go to a deep dive with Blockchain Disrupts Industries. We've got Rita from Microsoft. She's the Chief Digital Advisor. She's also bringing somebody now that I haven't released yet, but she's bringing the Chief Blockchain Developer for Microsoft tomorrow. So if you want to ask any questions, especially with Azure, or anything to do with Microsoft, please come to the event. John's going to talk about legal, Kieran's role of education, and Jack's going to talk about blockchain, supply chain. Then in the evening, we've got Rosa, Jamie, Chris, and Anok talking about blockchain for impact, how society is going to change, or how blockchain and its technologies are going to help with societies, the underdeveloped countries, the people who need voices, and the marginalized, and the needy. So hopefully we can get some things out there to help out society. Jamie's X Horizon State. Chris is the Blockchain Philanthropy Foundation, so she can talk about bringing together the corporates plus those doing such massive impact in social innovation. And Anok, for those who don't know, Anok is our local evangelist enthusiast guru here at the Blockchain Centre, and he's working on this space as well for social impact. And on Monday, we've got Smart City, Blockchain City. So Boyd Cohen is ex-Smart City Barcelona. He's here for a couple of days, and he's doing a keynote to talk about what his work is in creating the Blockchain Cities Alliance, IOMOB, a lot of IoT and mobility, and we're going to talk about how blockchain is helping to create smarter cities and it's enhancing urban living. Rita's back again, and so is Jamie, and we also have Ellie Renner from the RMIT Blockchain Innovation Hub. She's doing a lot of work on urban living and how technology is helping with that. We do incubation here, some of the startups that you've seen from the other slide who's pitching, but we've also got the incubator program, the Block Engine. VIP program, $50 per year. That includes $50 towards your next workshop. And follow us on social media. So if you want to be updated, because the transition might be a little bit difficult from when we're here, we are closed for the next couple of days, please keep onto our socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we'll keep you updated on what's happening there. We also have a newsletter that will probably come out on Monday. So make sure, if you haven't put your name down into the iPad at the front to get our newsletters, please do, and we'll keep you updated on that. Now, as I said tonight, it is our last night, but we've had a special company come to us who is sponsoring drinks this evening, and they've got some special things to talk about later. But so before that, we've got Blockchain Global, Digital X, IBM, Hobby Australia is our corporate sponsor. As we are a not-for-profit, we need these supports to help us go through it. But tonight's drinks that's out there, if you guys haven't grabbed a drink, please do. We don't mind you standing up and just going down there. We've got the lovely gentleman over there who's presenting some of the drinks. So just really quickly, she will be back again to present something special of what they're doing in the startup incubation space. But just to say thank you for giving us drinks this evening. Let me just call up Kirsten from Carlton United Brewers. Alright, so let's get to talking and trading. If you guys haven't done Slido before, please go on there. It's TT29AUG. Put your questions in there. But let me bring up another, I think we had it last week, which is a first-time moderator. So let me bring up another first-time moderator to go through and help us talk and trade and talk everything crypto and blockchain. So as a first time, please join me and a big round of applause for Miss Steph.
Hi everyone, my name's Steph. I've been coming to the Blockchain Centre since about November last year. So we've been doing talk and trade every Wednesday, and usually what we do is we'll pick like 4 or 5 questions from Slido and do about 15 minutes each. But what we like to do is find the new people that come to the Blockchain Centre and get a question from anyone who's new. So who's new here tonight? Put your hands up. 2 people? I see a lot of new people here. If anyone has a question and they're new here to the centre, would you like to have the question answered? No? Oh, all right. So I guess we'll go to Slido. So the first one is Bitcoin Cash and Cobra. So I'm guessing this is the hard fork that's coming up. Would anyone like to talk about that tonight?
Harrison would.
Not my question. Are you sure?
Not your question. If anyone in the crowd wants to pipe up, put your hand up and we'll get you a microphone.
You know, just hand the microphones around to anyone outside. So essentially, Bitcoin Cash is having an interesting time period at the moment where we're deciding the future of the protocol, and it's really going in 2 major directions. There's one called Bitcoin Cash SV, or Satoshi's Vision, which is a client that plans to sort of lock down the protocol while increasing the block size to 128 megabytes. And then there's another school of thought that wants to bring in something called canonical transaction ordering, which helps to order the transaction slightly differently, but it does break consensus, and they're not quite considering raising the block size to 128 megabytes yet from its current position at 32 megabytes. There is another small player in the ecosystem, and that is Cobra Bitcoins. So who here has heard of Cobra Bitcoin? That's not too many. Cobra Bitcoin is a pseudonymous figure in the Bitcoin space who is currently in control of the bitcoin.org domain. So that's why he is a little bit of an influence holder in the ecosystem. And this crafty guy is trying to get his client established called Bitcoin Cobra. And essentially Bitcoin Cobra is the ABC client with no modifications, and he's calling it user activated no fork as a play on words to user activated soft fork. So essentially it's a protocol that maintains the current status quo in Bitcoin Cash instead of moving to the new ABC client or Bitcoin ABC client or to the Satoshi's Vision client. What this one's doing is remaining exactly the way it is for Bitcoin Cash, and he's trying to get a bit of support base out of this. So that's what Cobra's doing in Bitcoin Cash.
Which one do you support, Harrison?
Pardon?
Which one do you support?
I don't currently have a position yet. I'm still researching the sphere to decide the best point of the best way for the protocol to move forward. I do, in principle, agree with raising to 128 megabytes, and I do, in principle, agree with waiting before introducing canonical transaction ordering. So if I were to take a pick right now, I would probably pick Bitcoin SV. But I'll be waiting to see how the ecosystem plays out on that, given that SV still has to release the protocol, has to test the protocol, has to gain mining support and exchange support and wallet support and all the other support for the protocol. So in theory and in practice are 2 different things on this issue. What we can do is we can wait and see how the hash power falls, and I'm sure that there will be some rational debate had between the 2 parties to try and form a consensus solution, because that's what this is all about, essentially.
So on September 1,
It's they're doing a test net of the ABC coin, and then November 1st is when the actual hard fork date will be kicking in. So November 1st, if it's not resolved by then, it's on for young and old, and whoever has the most hash power wins.
September 1st, they're actually testing the 128 hash power, as I understand it. They're testing out the speed.
Not quite, you're close. You've got a good point there. The 1st of September is the Bitcoin Cash stress test. And on that day, there is a target of producing 5 million on-chain transactions in a single day on the Bitcoin Cash mainnet. So that's something that's happening in a couple of days. I think it's a great initiative, led in part by a person I'm pretty familiar with in the Bitcoin Cash meetup space. But yeah, it's a very good initiative to prove the power of on-chain scalability and to set an example for all the other proof-of-work cryptocurrencies in the ecosystem that big blocks do work and that they can be used as a scaling vector. Pardon? Absolutely. I think that pretty much answers the question. Does anyone have any other questions? Go on.
You're still confident that there's not going to be a chain split?
I'm less confident than I was last week about there being no chain split. I sincerely hope they can work this out. I don't support a chain split. But if there is a chain split, that would be very bad for the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem. So I definitely don't support that. So in theory, I don't want a chain split. In practice, I think ABC will probably back down on some of the things that they're doing, some of the things they want to produce, but they haven't done so yet. So it's essentially a bit of a brinksmanship scenario where we'll see how things go in the next couple of weeks as it gets closer to November 1st. Because whoever's on the wrong side of this fork is probably not going to do too well.
I think at the moment,
Sorry, did you?
yeah, I
I
think at the moment there's a miners meeting going on in Thailand.
That's what I was referring to.
Yeah, that's, as I said, it's not set in stone yet if they're going to split or...
Absolutely not. Yeah, so it's two different visions for the future of Bitcoin Cash, and it's up to the proof-of-work mining majority to determine which path we take, because the other players in the ecosystem will not last too long if their blocks get orphaned to death. So it's a time ticking scenario where the players in the ecosystem, both the developers, the users, the exchanges, the businesses, and the miners, all have to come to some form of consensus, and it might not be a clean consensus. There will be compromises on both sides, I'm sure. But if a compromise solution cannot be reached, there may be a chain split, and that may Satoshi have mercy on the souls of those holding the wrong fork, I tell you what.
Hey Harrison, this looks like the Ethereum rate diluting trust in the whole project.
It is, you're exactly right. This is why the majority of the users don't support a fork, and we all almost universally support a consensus solution on this issue, because this issue does not require a new chain to split, because there is consensus on that there should be larger blocks. The question is now just how large should the blocks be, and it turns out it's hard to get people to agree on a number, which is why I support emergent consensus operated by Bitcoin Unlimited. I think Bitcoin Unlimited is the most reasonable voice in this issue. They're offering a consensus solution whereby their node will be compatible with both forks, and people will be able to choose which options they activate and deactivate in the course of the fork. I think that's the best way to go forward, whereby each of the features is implemented in software but not activated yet. And then we have miner activated voting to turn on the different features, especially canonical transaction ordering, which is quite controversial.
So are you talking about a whole new political way of deciding things before it gets to this point?
That's right.
Because that needs to happen in the whole industry.
Absolutely right.
So you're talking about a whole level of democracy or voting, or because it's not democracy, it's based on the power of a
It's
pool.
hash power voting, yes.
Okay, so we have basically wealthy owners of computation as the voters. So there are new oligarchs in the system. What does that mean? Like, that's not a community voting situation. So I want to escalate this up to the politics, because answering at a protocol level isn't what's really going on. There are people who own these systems who are fighting.
There are not only people who own this system, but there are two large companies in Bitcoin Cash that are in many ways competing for the benefit of their own patent portfolio. That's why I almost universally oppose the patenting process on this sort of technology. We can't have patents in the base layer because it causes this sort of perverse incentives in many cases whereby it's profitable to cripple the development of the base layer because you have patented second layer solutions that you can then conveniently come to rush to the rescue with. So that's why I support massive on-chain scaling. That's why I support, in practice and in theory, 128 megabyte blocks so that we can scale this to the rest of the world. The thing is, there are some software solutions that need to be developed before 128 megabyte blocks are practical in a software sense. And I think those should be made with the support of the miners and not before. Anyone have any other questions? I might walk off.
Well, we have a second. But we have a second question. You might want to take one.
Oh, this is a classic question. This is a classic. We see this question quite a bit when people first get into Bitcoin and realize that yes, the block subsidy will one day end. So there are two approaches to supporting the network in terms of mining reward after the block subsidy period of time has ended. I remind you, in 140 years. But at that end point, there are two options. We either go for, it boils down to an RK strategy, whereas the K strategist will say we need a small amount of transactions that pay a high transaction fee. I prefer to go with the volume model of transaction fee so that everybody can use it, of having a large volume of transactions, millions and millions of transactions that pay a small fee. So it's easier for the protocol to scale and for cryptocurrency to compete with established fiat currencies if the transaction fee is as small as possible, but we have a large amount of transactions. So that produces on-chain revenue for the miners, so they can earn a large volume of transaction fees while having the individual transaction fee be fairly low. So that's how we deal with supporting the network when the mining subsidy does end.
Answer the mayonnaise question.
The mayonnaise question?
I feel like this is a SpongeBob SquarePants joke that I may have seen before in too many memes. I think it needs to go. The meme is dead, guys. Please.
Thank you, Harris. So I guess we'll go on to the second question, which I'm just going to ignore the mayonnaise one. We're going to do the market one, which is lots of green shoots appearing in the crypto market. What is the reason for it? Prediction on when Bitcoin will reach 10K. We do not offer financial advice here, but if anyone wants to do any Hail Mary predictions or any price points, you are welcome to come up and show us your stuff. Anyone? Anyone do TA?
I feel like Jonathan wants to TA.
Oh, you did TA.
I guess I have a little say. So the current green candles that we're seeing is purely from Bitcoin's movement. I think anyway, again, it's just speculation. So every time Bitcoin moves, so does the old market. Bitcoin moved because it hit a local low, and every time it hits a local low, it moves up, and we're seeing a little bit of a squeeze in the price. It will keep going up and down in waves. I don't think there's anything else other than that, to be honest. But yeah. So 10K by tomorrow.
I actually do quite a little bit of TA at home. So I did a price point prediction for around the 12th of December, which was 11K if I remember correctly. I don't know. But that was on the 12th of December. So who knows where it is going to go between now and then. But yeah, not financial advice, just fun predictions. Does anyone have any predictions of where we're going to hit before Christmas? No? Where do you want it to be before Christmas? Do you want it to go up or down? Who's shorting Bitcoin here? The one, the two people?
Yeah, 25 times leverage.
20 times, 25 times leverage. Okay, good, awesome. Good luck with that. And next question. Is there any possibility that the 21 million Bitcoin level can be increased? Example, 51% control of nodes or node virus. Does anyone want to answer this question or contribute to it?
If it happens, Bitcoin's worth nothing because the whole model's broken, so what's the point?
So if it happens, Bitcoin's broken.
Money to have 51% control, like medical, Scott, Irish, electricity.
Well, I heard Antonopoulos said they're not going to increase the number of Bitcoin, but what they will do is increase the number of Satoshi. So instead of 8 decimal points now, we'll go to 10 decimal points.
Does anyone else have anything to add to this?
That's a very different thing. They're not. Those concepts are very different things. One increases resolution, which is changing the SAT level, which effectively means you can spend 1 Bitcoin and use it for smaller fractions. But to actually increase the 21 million, they lose your pool of so if you hold 1 Bitcoin and they add the number of decimal points afterwards, nothing changes. You still hold 1 Bitcoin, it's just got more decimal points afterwards. But if you hold 1 Bitcoin and the total capacity of the network goes from 21 to 22, your wealth percentage of the total pool changes. So they're very different things. The 21 million will never change on Bitcoin. It would be too much of a psychological blow to the trust of the network and the miners fighting for what it originally stood for.
Some more financial advice that we don't give out. Should we buy into crypto right now?
Always.
Oh, financial advice though. Does anyone have any information on this Horizon State question? Why would Jamie Skeller leave Horizon State before delivering on his promise? Is it a synchronicity? Anyone? Know anything about interesting?
It's like, I think he's talking tomorrow.
He's talking tomorrow?
Yeah. Blockchain for Impact.
At Blockchain for Impact.
6 p.m. Something Innovation Festival.
6 p.m. Innovation Festival, something.
So I heard that he left because he wants to take care of his children.
He left because he wants to.
Yeah, so he left because
So
So
this was the decision. And I think it, and I'm just expressing an opinion, but at the time he embarked on the journey, while you assume you know the complexity, whatever step, the complexity and scope of what he at times to do increases, the hours and the time he spent on the business and the new work, I do think that's a valid reason rather than the company being extinction. As the time will tell.
So you're saying he bit off more than he could chew and now he's left the project?
I think all of us bite more than we can chew in this space at this point in time. So that's fair for him, but myself and each of you. So yes, but stepping aside to take time to sleep and take care of your, 0-year-old, that's also valid life reasons.
Okay, that's pretty much wrapped up, I think. So, didn't we talk about ETF last week? But we want to talk about it. Does anyone want to talk about it again tonight? That wasn't here last week. You do? You want to hear about it or you want to talk about it?
I guess I have a sentiment on it. So
You have a sentiment on it?
Yeah.
I like it.
I think ETF is probably bad for Bitcoin from where the industry started, but it also has its good points. the good points would be that you can have institutional investors on board quite quickly, but I think it goes against the ethos of what the industry first started off as. Institutional investors will take over the industry and put it in the way that they want to go. I guess as me, I don't really have a say in the matter.
Anyone else?
Do you think it's inevitable?
So ETFs are inevitable.
Right now, it's probably not going to happen, but in a 10-year, 20-year mark, yeah, probably it'll happen. The more and more it becomes safe in the eyes of institutional investors, the more chance it will start happening.
That's fair enough. Does anyone up the back there?
Sorry?
Just maybe an extension to that, maybe on the ETF being a good thing or a bad thing, people can make their own minds. Would be a comparison to gold, and that's a few things that I've seen on the media. So whatever it's worth.
I think I would disagree with that. You know, gold needs something like an ETF to actually be traded efficiently. You can't send gold to someone on the other side of the world today. Bitcoin doesn't need that. There's no reason why I can't send $2 million worth of Bitcoin to Europe right now. That transaction goes through, so I don't think an ETF is real needed.
I agree with what you've said, but the thing with the ETF is that it treats it like a commodity, which is what it is, and so that could be a clue on it in the future, and potentially, as we've seen with gold, could be a problem as far as manipulation of Bitcoin is concerned. That could be life. What can you do?
Hello.
Hi, Alejandro. Yes. Yes. Who are you?
I'm Satoshi.
You are Satoshi.
I think the ETFs pose another really interesting philosophical question. Are they good? What are your standards? They would probably really pump up the price. Bitcoin becomes really attractive and really good for the banks. Are they good for the people that started supporting Bitcoin and have supported for the last 10 years? Probably not. What do people that are very cynical and very deep in the community say? Fuck it, the banks buy it for $100,000 and then move on to another chain, a new chain, a decentralized chain, and then we'll ride the wave again. Like, if you want to have a truly decentralized technology, you can buy it out, but we can create another one. So buy Bitcoin now, sell at 100, and I'll see you at the next one.
That's a good pitch. Just want to add one thing. It's like, what's our ability to influence the outcome either way? It's probably going to happen or not happen. Most likely happen. But look at what we've got right now. We've got like naked shorts, naked longs. People betting on the future price of Bitcoin without needing to hold the underlying asset. Most of the ETFs that will come will require those funds to hold the underlying asset. So, we're going to have a whole bunch of, Bitcoin tied up in these funds, which means they're out of circulation. Obviously, those funds can arb them, which is obviously the whole point of ETFs. But so personally, I think I'm comfortable with it. I mean, the idea of Bitcoin is that you shouldn't really control who wants to buy, sell, trade, dispose of Bitcoin. So if an organization, a company, a bank, a country, a treasury wants to buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin and do something with it, well, that's the life of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Leave it up to Wall Street and we'll all be humming,
I agree with you. I just think that people overemphasize how special and unique Bitcoin is. Tonight we're farewelling this lovely venue because a massive skyscraper is going to be built here. If you look at real estate and land in amazing cities, it is limited. There is a very real and unique price tag to it. If you want to live in Melbourne CBD, you will have to buy an apartment in this new lovely building for a few millions. But if you want to buy Bitcoin, if the banks own it and people are suddenly dissatisfied by the price of it, by how accessible it is, by how easy it is to manipulate it, you can just create a new one. So yeah, buy now, wait till 100, sell later.
Does anyone else want to talk about ETFs? No?
Answer the mayonnaise question.
Answer the mayonnaise question. How about you answer the mayonnaise question?
Get up there.
Your own question. Introduce yourself. Where are you from?
My name is Satoshi Nakamoto, and I'm from Eltham. Surprise?
I am surprised.
Yeah.
Please answer the mayonnaise question for the audience.
I actually wanted to know who put the mayonnaise question up.
Who did put it up? Because it definitely wasn't me.
I can't see the mayonnaise
I was just curious about the mayonnaise.
It's the very top one. It's very cryptocurrency.
These tech nerds, they'll name anything with anything these days.
Is that the answer?
That's it.
Alright!
Alright, that's my answer. Thank you.
So should we?
Are we still talking about me? No? Alright.
Huh? So which question would we like to talk about? Do we want to talk about decentralized social media platforms? I know there's a couple of people here. May not know, I think.
Okay, well, I'm loving Minds at the moment. So, Minds, yeah, that's my favourite little thing going on at the moment. Yeah. And I was just about to buy some tokens on Minds, and then they did an ICO. So I got no idea how the ICO went. But look, I like the platform. It's good. It works well. I've got my band's website up on there, and put some videos up.
Can you tell us about what Minds actually is? And what
Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit like Twitter or Facebook, but you get paid in tokens for. It's a bit like Steam. You get paid in tokens if your content is engaging, and then you can use those tokens to promote your content. So if you have one token, you can promote it to 1,000 impressions or whatever. So there's a sort of intrinsic value of the token, and it's being used. There's a lot of sort of cryptocurrency type people on there at the moment, because of the cryptocurrency thing. So probably a great place to pimp your ICO. I think it's a well put together thing. I like it. I mean, there's actually they've got a lot. Well, look, and it's very timely right now because you've got Mind, you've got GAD, who I think they've done an ICO as well. But you've got this alternative opportunity to actually communicate that isn't censored, like Twitter and Facebook and Google now are all doing a lot of shadow banning and different ways of manipulating and making it so it's harder to get your words out. So I'm all about free speech, and I think it's quite good, and it's actually quite good implementation as well. So it's
I've got a little question about Minds. Does it run on an Ethereum token?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you how does the platform calculate how much rewards to send to a post when it gets uploaded?
So you said how does it calculate how many rewards to send to a post when it gets uploaded?
Where do those rewards come from?
Yeah, so it works internally. It has a formula on the website, and it's based on that. And they do reserve the right to change the formula as people try to gain it. And then you have an address, and then you can send that and export that out into the market if you want as well. So yeah, you have a wallet. If you set up the account, you actually have a wallet.
And when people make upvotes, are they recorded on chain or are they centralized and sort of counted by the Minds team?
I don't know.
You're not sure? Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Sorry.
You shouldn't be able to.
Have you heard of Paul's Bitcoin song?
Yes, put it on.
I hope you've all heard it. I don't remember. Hey girl, I've seen you around. I know we should be together. Just give me some time and I'll show you. I'm Bitcoin!
And then it goes on from there. I'm not going to do the whole daring and bold. Bitcoin, more honest than gold. There we go.
All right, and there's a saxophone solo.
There is a sax.
Obviously.
Alright, there's quite a few questions here. Is there anything that anyone wants to answer while I'm scrolling? There's decentralized exchanges, which we have covered in the past, put these down sometimes. Does anyone want to talk about their favorite cryptocurrency wallet? I'm assuming on the phone or on the PC?
Yeah, let's go around the room and ask some people. I'm just going to go walk around the room and just go, like, right next to me here is somebody. What's your name?
Martin.
Martin, hello.
Hello.
What's your favorite wallet?
Airbits, but it's not called Airbits anymore, but I haven't upgraded it yet, but it's called Edge now, but Airbits. Paul Quay in California, great guy. Airbits.
Alright, there's a promo for Airbits. Let's walk over here.
Hand cash.
So what's your favorite?
Hand cash.
Why?
Bitcoin cash.
Ah, there you go. Alright, okay, I'm just walking around the room. This one, what's your name?
Karen.
Karen, do you have another name?
Lockman.
Alright, Blockmum, do you have a favorite wallet?
Wallet. Of course, it's a CoinSwap wallet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, there you go. These are all from the past, sorry. Over here, another member that's been in around. What's your name?
Alex.
Alex, what's your favorite wallet?
I only use cold wallets, sorry. CoinSwap if you want to buy one.
There you go. Alright. Maybe let's go to the other side of the room. Oh, let me just stop here. What's your favorite wallet?
Bitcoin or ETH?
Whatever.
S&T wallet. It's pretty feature rich. It's got a chat function. It has equal tokens. Great user experience. I love it. I'm in love with it.
Sorry, what was that?
I don't know. Sorry, what's the question over there? SNT, Sierra November Tango.
There you go, SNT. Person over here, what's your name?
Chris?
What's your favorite wallet?
I only use the Loki wallet.
Honestly, I'm not picking people here who's just promoting it. Just gotta go out. Let me go over here. What's your name? Rosa, do you have a favorite wallet? MetaMask? Why? Really, I'm just picking them all. Yeah? Okay.
Okay, Nim wallet.
Alright. My favorite wallet is the one that's in my pocket at the moment. Yeah. Alright, I think I've finished that round there. Maybe one more question?
Yeah, one more question. Should we talk about the Tether printing impact on BTC price? We haven't talked about Tether in like a month or two, I'm pretty sure.
It's been a while, but some are printed today actually.
So, like some got printed today?
Some got printed very recently.
Ah.
How much?
How much got printed?
200 million or something?
50 million.
50 million Tether got printed today.
It was either today or yesterday.
And that was in response to the Bitcoin increase or possibly? Fair enough. What, so it got printed and then Bitcoin went up? Well then, is it a conspiracy theory to think that it's linked to the increase in Bitcoin?
It's not a conspiracy theory, it's pretty much been proven.
It's pretty much been proven?
If you go to Bitcoin market cap and you look at exchanges by volume,
Can I get your mic so you can talk into it?
I'm not saying it's a conspiracy theory, but if you go to CoinMarketCap, all the coins are ordered by volume. So if you go into exchanges, you can see which exchanges around the world have the largest volume and what area they're trading. Exchanges like Binance, dubious exchanges with unknown ownership. They've got the largest volume of Bitcoin by far. They've got hundreds of millions a day, and all of it is USDT. If you look at using Tether, when you sign up, I've actually registered. The terms and conditions literally say we don't owe you anything, we don't even know who you are, we don't really care. These tokens are funny online, magic money, remember those days a year ago? So there's no accountability. A few auditing firms have actually walked away from Tether because they don't want to touch those books. No one wants to attach a name to a professional services firm. What they do, American exchanges have actually blocked money transfers from those banks. Like, there's just too many things combined to think it's not toxic. And when you look at the daily volumes, it's like, well, if everyday users like ourselves with some, rational analysis are steering away from it, and the volumes are only increasing, and with 50 millions a day, you do wonder. And just as a final thought, because I might not be the microphone again. I've seen what happened to Harrison. One of the reasons why the ETFs got rejected was unknown forces are manipulating the Bitcoin market. No ETFs will ever get approved until the regulators can actually ascertain who is manipulating the price. It's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of who.
We have no ETFs. Right now we are seeing some of the largest correlation between Bitcoin and alts that we've seen. So if you're trading cryptocurrencies, the most logical place, if you want to exit the market right now, because we are in a bear run, is to go to Tether. It's not to go to another cryptocurrency. You don't want to go to Ethereum, because if Bitcoin goes down, Ethereum goes down. You don't want to go to your other alt, because when Bitcoin goes down, your other alts go down. So right now in the market, the most logical play, if you're scared of Bitcoin's price, if you want to hedge, is go to Tether. So the reason we're seeing Tether being so popular is because it's not decreasing in value. So, yeah.
Yeah. What about it hasn't blown up yet?
Sure, like you can make complete arguments about Tether being a scam, Tether being hot air, whatever you want. But the point that we're seeing lots of Tether being traded into Bitcoin right now has nothing to do with whether you believe in Tether or not. It's to do with the fact that the correlation is so high, people are getting scared and pulling their money out, and they feel Tether is safer than any other cryptocurrency.
But isn't it more scary to pull out into an actual fake money? Yeah. Because at least Bitcoin, I can get real.
But that's a different argument to what you just made. Completely. Tether, I'm happy to say Tether is hot air.
Give you real money. AUD, USD, Euro, fucking Bolivares if you
want.
Not
every exchange, a lot of exchanges won't.
Tether, not.
And you pay more fees.
I mean, if you've got real holdings, the fees are not an issue. You want to have real money in your hand because you're scared about the price movements? I'm sorry, but Tether's not an option anymore. There's a whole bunch of anchors and tethers and, properly registered security tokens like...
I don't disagree, but you're not talking about educated and people that are in the scene every single day. You're talking about the average investor. The average investor sees Tether as stable, they pull their money out, they wait a few weeks, they put it back in.
Yep, I've seen this with my friends who moved to Tether because they're scared of the price. Just how it is. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap that up.
Alright, I think we're going to wrap up Talking Trades. The last time here at digitized. Everybody, please join me. Round of applause. Steph. Alright, so the last few weeks we've had first-time moderators. So if you want to moderate, if you want to be in this lineup of just facilitating Talking Trade, please come to us at the end here. But now, as I said, there's a special announcement from our sponsor of the drinks this evening. So please join me in welcoming the drink sponsors. If you haven't got a drink, please go over there. There's many seats over there here. But sorry. All right. Okay, we're just doing. All right, we're getting a 30-second pitch from one of our global strategic sponsors here, Adrian from Hobby.
Thanks, everybody. Congratulations to Blockchain Centre on the move, etc. So wishing you all the best, and as a major sponsor, we look forward to continuing that partnership. I've probably got 20 seconds left now. We're looking to list on our exchange. For those that don't know, Hobby is one of the biggest 3 exchanges in the world. We've recently launched in Australia with 10 Aussie dollar to coin listings. We're looking to list a wide range of coin-to-coin listings coming up in the next month or two. But just what I want to talk about tonight is we're looking to list some Australian coins and make Australian dollar to Australian project coin listings. So what I'd like people to do, we want to encourage the local ecosystem, etc. What I'd like you to do is go on to Telegram. There's various socials that you can get onto, but Telegram, Hobby Australia on Telegram, and make some noise about your token, your project. Tell us which ones that you'd like us to support, and then we'll take that information and overlay that with a more formal due diligence project, a more formal due diligence process, and then we'll select some coins to list. So get on Telegram, make some noise, and thanks everybody for your time.
Thank you, Adrian. All right, again, thank you so much, and as I said, make some noise and put all your favorites out there, or your favorite. All right, let me welcome Kirsten again.
Hi everyone. So I'm Kirsten, I'm the Sustainability Manager. Just to kind of give you a quick background, you're probably going, hey, what's a 100 Plus Accelerator Program and what's AB InBev? So CUB is part of the AB InBev portfolio. We operate in over it's probably more like 450 now because I haven't updated this most recently. But to kind of pick on why I'm here today is earlier this year we launched 4 global sustainability goals. We all have them now. Last 10 years, and we've made some quite good progress, but we've identified that really we need to focus more on just 4 key goals where we can have impact as a brewery, and those are identified here. So water stewardship, working in high-risk areas to improve water quality and watersheds. So think of the likes of India, who face a lot of water issues. Secondly, 100% of our direct farmers, well-skilled, connected and financially empowered. We are one of the biggest buyers of barley in the world, so where can we make an impact there? And then thirdly, we've got climate action. So, you know, brewing beer does produce carbon emissions. Where can we look in our own operations to reduce that? And then also looking to purchase 100% renewable energy across all of our sites by 2025. And then finally, circular packaging. So this one, you know, we sell beer in bottles, cases, kegs. We're aiming for 100% of our packaged beer to pretty much be returnable packaging or mostly recycled by 2025. So quite ambitious. You can see the 100 plus up above, and why we have that 100 plus is we're a company, we know that we want to be around for the next 100 plus years. So that's why we've identified these goals as things that we really need to work on globally, not just as our own business, but also outside our own walls. And they're quite ambitious. Like we know we can't achieve these on our own, so that's why we've launched an accelerator program to help with our global sustainability program. So looking to reach outside of our own walls, working with researchers, scientists, startups, going far and wide to really see whether we can achieve those 4 global goals, and we're pretty confident we can. And as part of that, we've looked at 10 challenges that all link to those 4 goals, where we're reaching out externally to try and, you know, find solutions. So that's why I'm here tonight. I know a lot of you work in, you know, with blockchain, but also there's quite a few challenges that I think that you can help contribute to. I won't go through every single one of these, but I'll hopefully be able to share this presentation afterwards. If you're after more information, please feel free to reach out to me directly, or there's also a website where you can apply. Firstly, I'll just quickly touch on each of these. There's one's linked to water, agriculture, closing the loop on packaging. There's future of brewing, carbon emission reductions, and also safer and greener logistics. Obviously, we transport beer all over the world, so where are there is place to make it safer and also reduce our carbon emissions. produce a fair bit of waste with all of our brewing operations. How can we turn that into more nutritional outputs or have zero waste there? And then finally, we have over 180,000 employees worldwide, so how can we leverage that reach to be able to really drive forward the sustainability agenda? Why participate? I won't go through all of that, but you can probably pretty much read it. We've got quite good access. This is a global program, so if you are successful in your application, there's a lot on offer. We're not necessarily looking to buy equity in your business or own the IP, but looking to partner with a lot of startups and entrepreneurs. And then, yeah, just on that bit, do we take equity? As I said, we're not necessarily looking for equity. We'll invest over 100K. And also so the applications are coming up really quick, thus why it was a bit of a last minute addition today. Closes on the 14th of September. You can enter via the website where they will provide a lot more detail than what I've just gone through right now on each of the challenges and what we're looking for, particularly across each of those challenges and what we're trying to address. And the accelerator kicks off on the 15th of October. There's a wide range of micro pilots that we'll do in Australia and also over in the States. So it's you can either be addressing a local challenge or a global challenge as part of your application. So yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn or via my email, or even alternatively via the website. And yeah, thank you for listening and hope you enjoyed the beers tonight.
Thank you. Should be around for a little bit, so if you want to ask any questions to Kirsten, please do. Also, if you didn't, please let us know, talk to Karen or myself, and we can give you all the details and tell you where to participate. There's our Women in Blockchain chat this evening. This is our last. People are coming in, and we thank you all for all the support you're giving. So for one last time, we are going to do 90-second pitches after this chat. Fantastic projects that you know of, please let me know or Karen know, and we'll do 90 seconds and I'll follow this up after that. But for now, to talk about some amazing work that they're doing with Civic Ledger and our GM Karen, who will be interviewing her, please join me. Before we do that, there are many seats over here, so if you do want to see, please take you. But let's welcome Katrina Donaghy.
Wow, what a crowd tonight. Amazing. Thank you everyone for coming. As John said, we are happy, sad. We've had a lot of really good memories in this place. And yeah, we're a bit sad, but we're going to celebrate tonight. ValueX are coming in. They're going to bring us some music. There's beer from CUB, our sponsor. Thank you very much, CUB. Hope you apply for that amazing opportunity to join their accelerator. What an opportunity for startups to join someone as fantastic as CUB. So just an introduction to Women in Blockchain. Rosa, where are you? Over there. A couple of months ago I approached Rosa about joining forces about Women in Blockchain, and Katrina here has been an absolute legend in Brisbane, bringing Women in Blockchain together. I sort of picked up a little bit a couple of months ago, went to the hobby launch and proudly said that every project should have a woman on their advisory panel. Didn't realise quite what I was saying then and how much support I was going to get from the industry, and since then I've been asked to be on at least 3 projects. So I love starting this amazing movement with Katrina, and really want to thank her for letting us support. So, without further ado, Katrina. So, tell us, Katrina, a little bit about your role at Civic Ledger.
This is a bit unusual for me because I'm always the one doing the interviewing. My role is I'm a co-founder and co-CEO of a blockchain company called Civic Ledger. So we started actually coming up for our second birthday, so we were incorporated on the 21st. We founded ourselves on the 21st of September and incorporated on the 26th of September. But before we did that, we went and did an MVP with the Queensland government just to validate that maybe this technology might have some place in government. So I know it's almost like swearing to say blockchain and government in the same sentence, but back then 2 years ago, this was, no one was having these conversations. So, and we were using the Bitcoin blockchain back then and coloured coins. So it was really early days. But how did this blockchain technology find me? 3 years ago, I quit my executive job. I worked in government for 20 years, like a lot of people who are now working with blockchain. We actually have SME backgrounds before we actually get immersed in the tech. And there is some stuff in water utilities and also the not-for-profit sector. I am from Brisbane, but our company is incorporated in New South Wales. And we also have a bit of a presence here in Melbourne through our co-founder, Bradley Mayles, who used to be the CDO of Victorian Government. So this all basically started because I met Sam Lee in April 2016 in Brisbane. He came up to do a special corporate governance, and Lucas Cullen did a pop-up meetup, and I met Sam that night, and I met Lucas. Lucas Cullen is my co-founder. And it was Sam and another person called Leanne Kemp from Everledger, who also played a very important role, the reason why I got immersed in this technology. And now it's 2 years later, and we're a emerging fintech organisation in 2018, and we're working on some really interesting projects with government at the moment.
What's been your biggest challenge so far?
I think the biggest challenge is the tire kicking. I think we're actually at the point now where we're sick of it. I think we're at the point now where it's no longer saying, what is this technology and why should we care? I think it's the time has now arrived. It's about, well, just come on, let's just start doing something with this technology. That still is a very frustrating point, and we've just been at a conference today, which is amazing because there's enterprise in the room, but I still think that they think that this is just all going to go away, or it's just going to, but I'm just tired of tire kicking, very tired of it.
If you skip 12 months from now, what's your vision? What's it going to look like?
I hope that the vision is that obviously we're still around as a company. We are what we call a startup, and we are now emerging out of the valley of death, which is awesome. Which is, if anyone is a startup, that's one of the things that we go through. It's a valley of death. Just because you work in blockchain doesn't mean that you're immune to the concept of a startup. You've still got to make money, you've still got to actually get the next customer, and you've still got to attract investors. And that's all through having market fit and a good product. It doesn't matter because you have blockchain in your name. It doesn't matter, it's about the problem you're solving. I like to think that we have grown as a company, and we're working, I'd like to actually say that we're growing, we're still around, and working on some very good stuff. Oh, and probably going into much more alpha global infrastructure stuff. I think we're getting there, but we are having those conversations now, but I like to think that we're no longer doing MVPs. Please don't make us do MVPs in 12 months' time.
What's your, if you could learn a lesson from what you did 12 months ago to now, what's your biggest learning that you would want to share with someone starting out in this market?
Start now. I think don't wait anymore. I think, one of the things there's always a way with startups or when you're doing entrepreneur stuff is that don't wait for permission for someone to say it's okay to start doing something. But I think also 12 months ago, we almost shut down. We actually had that conversation and we said, you know what, we've given this a good shot. I think it's over. Even though we had customers and we had market validation. And the reason why is because we were still a startup, and we felt that we were too early. And we were sort of looking at signals across the market and say, you know what, I think we're just too early. We really need to shut up shop. And that's where we were 12 months ago. But tenacity and a little bit of strategy, and at that time we'd actually went through a competitive tender for the IP contract, IP Australia, through the Digital Transformation Agency Marketplace. And if we hadn't got that call, then I wouldn't be sitting here. That's what it is to be a startup, regardless of whether you're using emerging technology or whatever, because if the market's not ready for you, you can pretend that there it is or not, but that was where we were. I've never actually told anyone that, but yeah, we did. We're actually it's gonna have to go get a day job.
God forbid. What about for you personally? When did you decide that you wanted to be a woman in tech? What was that decision for you?
I didn't make that decision. The decision was made for me when I was 8 years old. It's just something I've always done. I'm a sociologist. I'm a humanities graduate that happened to study political theory. But all through my jobs and everything, when I started my career, I was always delving with technology to solve human problems. So I worked in government and I was looking at technology. I worked in flood management in Brisbane before the flood event, and I was always looking at how can the technology prepare our communities better in the event of a flood event, and we did, and that was just my world. So the tech had already been there, but I wasn't coding it. I was using it to solve problems. That I thought would make the user experience or somebody's experience a lot better about getting access to information to make a decision. And as a result, people's lives were saved because we were able to use this technology called Floodwise and all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't a decision, and it's always just been, so just, again, serendipity, right place, right time, solving the right problem with the right people.
What's some of the obstacles you've had to overcome in your career as a woman in technology?
I don't know if I've had to overcome anything because, and again, and I'm just speaking on my personal experience, I'm not speaking on behalf of women. It's really important that I acknowledge that I'm not speaking for women because everyone has their own personal experience. But I guess I don't take shit. You know, I'm not going to sit in a room and say, woo! It's true, I mean, I'm not going to sit in a room and apologise because I actually happen to be of a gender. I'm here because this technology is saying, this is blue sky, there are no rules, this technology can solve some really wicked problems. And I just happen to be a person who saw the opportunity, grabbed it, worked with other people and made this happen. Yes, it is interesting when you are the only chick in the room and you're talking to people, but that's everywhere. But you just don't take shit, and you know why you're there, and you're there to work together. And the other thing too is that I don't think the community here actually sees this. We're all in here this together. We're all in here because we all see the opportunity with this technology, whether it be the VC or the crypto stuff, whatever. We're all here because we can see that the current systems are stupid, they're not working, and we're in here to actually use this technology to solve problems. So in this, we've got about 3,000 people in Brisbane that are all activated across the Bitcoin blockchain meetup, the Ethereum meetup, the Brisbane Women in Blockchain meetups, the crypto meetups, and we all just get in there together and not actually judge each other because of our genders. But yeah, I just don't take shit. That's just been my problem all through my life. I didn't finish school because I got thrown out of school. I got fired from so many jobs because I just don't take shit. And I was on a panel today and I always get asked that question, you know, and I'm not, it's time wasting. It is. It's like we don't have time to waste here. It's moving too fast. You're either here or you're not. If you're on, you're in. You're not, get off. Don't waste my time.
Excellent. Tell us about a journey with Ethereum, choosing that as a platform. How's that been? And given that there's different options now, would you do it again?
I don't want to build a freaking internet. I don't want to build an intranet that is locked down to certain people because somebody said that they can be there. Why would we want to do that? Why? I mean, but again, we work with Ethereum because Lucas has made his career, he's staked his career on it. And he wouldn't take that lightly because I know him so well. And obviously we started with the Bitcoin blockchain because that's what we had back then. But we wanted to write smart contracts, we wanted to program stuff. But we do know that we still have to be agnostic depending on the problems we're solving. And once we start going into jurisdictions internationally and working with industry, you know, that's when we've got to start thinking, okay, what are we designing here? What is the problem we're solving? What is the governance and that sort of stuff? But we know that Ethereum is a long way to go. Who knows? Who knows where we're going to be in 2 years' time? It's moving so fast.
So what's the biggest impact you think of your company and your projects? how's it going to change the world?
Well, one of the things I'm really passionate about is, and it's probably a segue to what was just before, is that we were very lucky to, well, not lucky because we worked hard for it, but we got to work on a really interesting project around water markets in this country. And water is one of the most precious commodities on the planet, which we all get because it's a finite asset. But we have a problem that we actually don't know the true value of water, and we don't have full participation in the marketplace. So the Australian government put out a problem around water markets. It was a grant process, we went through it, we secured the grant, and we looked at how blockchain technology can improve transparency in water markets. Originally the problem statement was different. This is why understanding the problem is always critical before you build stuff. So they believe that the problem around water in this country was lack of information. That's why problems with transparency. And we tested that hypothesis and we said, no, it's not the case at all. What the problem is that it's too hard to trade that asset. There's 15,000 business rules to trade water, there's about 80 water products across 4 different state governments with one regulator, and it's worth $16 billion. So for us, that was and it still is one of the dearest projects, one of the things I hold my heart to, because the world is going to need this technology to democratise this asset, to ensure that we have inclusiveness, because we know what's going to happen, because Syria went to war because of water. So this project, we delivered a feasibility study because it's basically the business case. And it's given us such world recognition because we're one of the only companies in the world that's actually looked at water and blockchain. So I get interviewed quite a lot about it, but the problem is that there hasn't been any agency in this country that's taken on this technology. So we're still dealing with legacy systems and registries that don't update or carry true representation of who's trading with who. The brokers are still making a shitload of money. Farmers are not participating in the market, and we don't know the true value of water. Hoping that that's going to change soon, because I have to go to Paris on Sunday and talk about it at the OECD. Yeah, so I've got to, because we are the only country that's actually looked at this table-owned company, I want to basically stand on a stage in France and Paris and say, this is why this is so important, and this is why this technology is so important, and hopefully pick up a country that might say, let's go do that.
Brilliant. Last question, and then I'll open up to the audience. So, women in blockchain, you've been a big champion for it. Why?
Why not? No, I guess I got tired of, when I was at Consensus last year, whoever was at Consensus last year in New York, it started the bloody thing with dancing girls. Jesus Christ, we paid $6,000 to be at that place. And the first thing that we got confronted with was fucking dancing girls. Anyone in this room, if you're going to do a conference, any of you think about bringing on dancing girls, pole dancers, because you think it's great, get out now, because I am so pissed with anyone who thinks that that's okay. It's not okay. Be respectful. We're here. We're collaborating. Don't tell me because I'm a female that I can only see the first time of my gender on a stage dancing. with nothing on and think that that's okay because it's cool. Don't do that. Let other industries do that, not this industry. I'm too proud of it. So we actually had a lunch, interesting enough, Accenture put on the Women in Blockchain lunch. And we had 2 days of it. It was hilarious. We had more men in that room because we had better food. But the women that we got trolled at that conference. This is consensus. We got trolled. We got harassed. We were sexually harassed. We were told we were not supposed to be there. The only women who were, the women on the booths were booth babes, so they actually didn't even. All the stuff was going live on the screen. Essentially didn't know what to do. We bashed out so much stuff about what was going on at that conference that they did not know where to look. Amber Badley got trolled. She had a dude come up to her and told her that she had a problem. She needed to shut up and listen to men. Amber Badley. It's like, and everyone thinks that was okay. So I left that lunch and I went to the first ever, my experience was the Women in Blockchain meetup, which is done by Thirsty Moran from Consensus with Y. And I sat in a room with about 60 amazing women and men, and we talked about the reason, we had a strategic discussion around this technology. We had 2 women from LO3 giving us a discussion around the microgrids at Brooklyn. It was one of the most interesting conversations because women were there and men were there and asking the question about the ethics, the governance. Why should we care? Where is this technology going? Tell me more, I'm really interested. What is this from my end user experience? Is this going to change my life? I couldn't get those conversations elsewhere. So I came back to Australia and I connected in with Tess. We went out for dinner. Again, another Leanne Kemp moment, just telling me to get on and do something. And I got back to Brisbane and I kind of went, okay, I'm just going to do this. So I set the meetup and my first meetup was, I had to talk about myself, which I found really funny, but I had 20 women in the room, all my friends, and I just did it. And I just felt that I wanted to have a conversation back then, because it was over a year ago. I wanted to have more of a conversation that wasn't under the hood. I wanted to inspire people to come and listen to about this technology because I wanted to create marketplaces. I wanted to have people in the room who came from different industries to ask the question, why should we care about this technology? Go back to their workplaces and start asking, why aren't we looking at this technology? Because I've got a whole bunch of people, really smart people in Brisbane who are startups and they need marketplaces. They need people to buy the MVPs and buy the proof of concepts so they can actually scale as startups because we have a developer problem in this country. We need to build more developers, we need to get more people involved in the tech, and the only way you can do that is by doing. But you need people in the marketplace to buy. So I thought, well, if I bring people into a conversation and interview women who actually have built the technology like Emma Weston and Leanne Kemp, and Dr. Lisa Cameron from Data 61, blah, 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 then we might start to see the emergence of marketplaces. And that was my motivation. And it's just gone from there. So it's not about the gender, it's about creating marketplaces so startups have a place to start.
Great initiative. Any questions from the audience? For Katrina? There you go.
Hi Katrina, unfortunately I've got 3 questions for you. The first one's regarding culture of failure in Australia. We know that the innovation department set up by Turnbull has been demolished, it has been gotten rid of. So do we have a culture problem with failure in this country? Second thing is, you talked about water. My understanding of water is it's always been misinterpreted as a commodity, whereas on the actual water itself, because water itself is a renewable product. So maybe part of the problem is that it should be considered more as energy as opposed to water. And third thing, probably, there were 2 girls in high school. Any advice for them?
3 questions. Do we have a problem with failure in this country? Oh, absolutely. But I think that's... Okay.
John.
Of course we have it. Yeah, I think we do, but I think, but I guess.
Bring out the dancers.
Yeah, bring out the dancing girls. Bring out the dancing girls. Bring them out. Bring them out. And and when you move to your new place, do not have a pink door, please. Do not have a pink door. That's one of the things that bugbears me about this place, having a pink door. I don't have to be reminded that, anyway.
We always use the men.
No, it's so smelly. That's the funny thing about the consensus. You always have the lineups at the men's toilets, and there's no lineups at the women's toilets. Cracks me up every time. Failure, yes, we do, but I mean, to flip it over, if we take into the context of building software stuff, we use Agile anyway, so we're failing very quickly. But second question was innovation. Yes, scares the bejesus out of me that as a country that is supposed to say that we're about, incredibly smart, blah, 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 that we have lost the nerve to the Conservatives and dropped that word. But we're working with the Digital Transformation Agency, and I wonder if they're actually going to be here by the end of the week, which is really sad. Really sad, because they actually got the mandate to look at blockchain technology in government, which we're working with them on that, which we're very excited about. How do the daughters get involved? Start a meetup in school, in the community. We had Evie Mullins from the Melbourne Girls Grammar with us this afternoon. Everyone thought she was my daughter. I'm like, no, she's a colleague. She's 18 and she's incredible. So just get curious. All this stuff is online, it's free. Just join a meetup, come here, and just be curious.
Anyone else? All right.
The water data market.
The water
Data
market.
What do you mean?
What do I mean by a market for water? Data.
Because you said the water needs to be traded. If it's blockchain, then it's a data market.
Yes. I guess from the point of view of when you're starting the story or the journey in government, it's very important that you take a very slow step change, moving them from a regulator to a facilitator of new marketplaces is a very big thing. And then as they get comfortable with the concept, then obviously then they start to realise the innovation that comes because the data is now secure or federated, as we say. Interesting enough, IP Australia are realising that now from a very interesting way, and their heads are going crazy. It's so exciting. But they do see it as exactly that. They want the data to be accessible globally without barriers, without intermediaries in the way. So yes, definitely. With the water, yes. So how that story ended, so the Australian government issued the next stage of funding to a company in Melbourne called Marsden Jacobs, and they decided to stick with the hypothesis, the original one, around water information. So they're actually aggregating water information. The markets, they're actually just sticking with the original hypothesis and are just creating aggregation of water data to feed into a different platform for the farmers to access.
How do you think it should be?
Well, the information is important, but it's just a pull in. It should still be a peer-to-peer marketplace. I think we'll get there. I think South Australia is going to be the first place to do it because they've got nothing to lose now. Next Enterprise not there, and Mongolia there, and Bunny Joyce is no longer, I guess, in the mix. But I think South Australia, because they're actually now very immersed in blockchain technology. One of our friends, Loretta Joseph, has been working very closely with the South Australian government on blockchain technology. So hopefully we might see something happen in South Australia, I hope.
I've got one question for you, but first I'd like to start off by thanking you for your general direction in emphasizing that it's more important to recognize the accomplishments of people that work in blockchain technology rather than their gender. I think that's a really good direction to be going for. My question is, do you think that there's a role to play for decentralized exchanges in providing more liquidity and information and price discovery to the water market?
Yes.
Could you elaborate on how that could be implemented?
Well, I think, again, I guess this is the interesting thing about this technology working with government is that we talk about, yes, definitely a decentralized marketplace, but what does that mean in the context of government-issued assets? We know that government are one of the most centralised organisations in anything we can imagine. And so when we think about how does blockchain work in this space, how we look at it is that we have to give ourselves permission to look at it in a different way. The concept of trust is what we call imperfect trust. Yeah. We are very fortunate in this country. I know we don't trust our politicians, I know that. But we do trust the government in the terms of delivering the services that we... Sometimes, but we're better off in many emerging democracies and emerging countries, like which I'm going to mention on the list. But we're very fortunate in this country. So how we have to work with government is that we look at the way data touches the sides and how it needs to be picked up by another organisation for the next tranche of the transaction. It's different. So we don't talk about, when we talk about the benefits of blockchain technology in government, it's not about trust. It is about an imperfect trust, yes, but it's more about efficiencies in the transaction, reducing cost to serve, reducing the time to contract. There will be probably two types of marketplaces that will emerge, which we're seeing with IP Australia that we're working on right now. Is that you'll have your sort of one that is the one that the government is working inside through whether they've got products in the marketplace. But the opportunity will be other markets that will evolve through industry or innovation. And they will pull the data from the registries to allow that to happen. So you won't have one monolithic marketplace, so to speak. You'll have many.
Would having a split in the marketplaces reduce the liquidity and, for example, the price of water if it were to be represented with a blockchain asset?
Well, that's the thing, is about, as you say, with price discovery. So, again, it's about what is the market. So, how we build out the application, again, it's about the discoverability through variable, so the prices can be set by the farmer. And say, okay, because it's not just about the actual water itself, they've actually got to determine energy consumption associated with the actual travel of the water. They've got to determine the time frame to which they want the water to be delivered. There's carbon issues that have to be incorporated into the actual transaction itself. It's very complex. But yeah, probably have a conversation offline about this.
We might have to do that,
yeah.
Hi, just want to ask a question about the tokenization of IP rights and how you overcame that. I just want to know, did you hash the IP patent, or did you just put the patent number onto the hash, or how did you overcome that?
Okay, with the patent stuff, we're actually still moving through that. So we've delivered the MVP, which was, we took what they were interested in. First of all, really great news about this project is that IP Australia are probably one of the most, and I can say the word innovative because it hasn't been taken out of my vocabulary. They're really innovative. If we look at the Australian government agency, right now the most innovative is IP Australia. So their curiosity around blockchain technology is they wanted to know, could we look at smart contracts to move the asset through its state of change? So IP right. So what we did is we, again, agile, same stuff, nothing different, constructed user stories that went through the entire life cycle of that asset from the moment that it was actually lodged to when it was requested for assessing, to the point of granting, opposition, and taking through. Mind you, that takes 14 years, thereabout. So we actually took that through the smart contracts. It was really exciting. And I know it sounds really nerdy watching smart contracts compile across the Etherscan, but it's really exciting to watch. It's so exciting. And they were losing themselves in Canberra. It was so exciting watching them actually lose it. It was so cool. So what we did was that they gave us a CSV file of 70,000 patent records that were open data, and they allowed us to push that through Etherscan. So we went and got some Bitcoins, and we actually wanted to see how fast we could transact those rights, or those transactions through Ether, through a testnet, mind you. We ran out of Bitcoins, but we actually pushed through 50,830 records in less than 40 minutes for around about 50,000 as equivalent in fiat. That blew their mind because they transact about 30,000 records a year. And the cost of that is insane because they have to reconcile the data because there's no data structure. Because they get the data in all different forms, PDFs and blah, blah. So that was great for news because by allowing us to do that process with them, this is how we work with government too. This is probably pretty stock standard for blockchain companies when we're working with clients and customers. Is that the first thing you need to do is you need to give them something that enables them to have a conversation internally to get confidence from the decision makers. By putting patents through a process on Ethereum using smart contracts and then showing them happening in real time gave them the confidence that this was going to be okay, that this technology is actually solving some important problems. And that led to the next stage, which was enabling us. What happens is, when we got to the end of the MVP, the patent right, the state of change went from applicant to IP right owner, state of change. So they actually were able to grant or claim their right. And then IP Australia wanted to know, well, okay, what can they do with that right? Because we want them to go and monetize that right. So they actually asked us to create some marketplaces, which we did. Very exciting, because why that is important is because you've got decision makers who want to be able to be convinced because it is about reducing the risk, well, it's about reducing risk for them. And we were excited because we were able to work on a problem that actually has global applications. And Australia went to WIPO, so that's the World Intellectual Property Organisation, and said, we would like to get permission from you to run this type of project, but on a global scale. This is very cool. This is what Australia does. A lot of people don't know what Australia does around this technology, but we're leading on so many different levels. And this is where we're heading. And so it's still very early days and everything, but I guess what we're hoping to see is no more MVPs, no proof of concepts, but now let's go build some stuff. And that's when it starts to get a bit different. Good stuff.
Yeah, last question.
Hi, sorry, I jumped the queue.
I'll ask later.
May?
Yeah, go.
So, thanks for sharing your almost failure, because I think that's one of the recipes to overcome the fear of it. Everyone's there, everyone has failures in life. Everyone's in a startup world knows that they can change or break it. So, any maybe lessons you can, or strategy you can share coming out of that, because 12 months, it can be a very long and short time, but now you're working with governments, you have funding, you have investors, you want to actually, get out of MVP stage while a lot of startups are still in there. Anything that particularly worked? Was it someone truly buying your vision? Was it something that was, you mentioned the change of strategy, something that was, in hindsight, done wrong that you would learn out and can advise the companies that are in this stage, startups looking to get buy-in, still in MVPs, looking to have MVPs. So anything you can share that would help other companies?
There's a lot of layers to that. If I was to be really honest, was hilarious that one of the things that set us apart and made people notice us, and this is what IP Australia did, we weren't focused on our, we were focused on our civic leisure per se. Yes, there's worked really bloody hard, but what was equally important was being part of a community. When you work in this space, this is the community. And we actually were more than, well, I am more than civic leisure. I'm more than what I am. I'm part of this community. I do a lot of mentoring. I do a lot of this. It's very exhausting. But what happened was that when IP Australia were assessing who was going to win this contract, they were able to see that we weren't more than, we just weren't sales. We actually were committed to the potential of this technology. I don't know if I'm making any much sense, but the other thing too is we didn't hide behind sales and marketing crap, which was one of the feedbacks that we did get back from IP Australia. They said you've got to up the polish a bit. But be pin focused on your strategy. Be clear who you are as a company. Don't get persuaded. If someone comes along to you and says, hey, can you go build something that's outside your remit? Think very clearly about it. Even though the money will be really cool because you need it, if that's not in your core business, don't do it, because it'll distract you from what you actually need to be working on. Be clear on your authenticity, be clear on your message. We had to, for the first 12 months, I remember, because I've had to, this bootstrapping, my guys, you have no idea. It looks really glamorous on the outside, but my God, no, it's a shitload of work on the inside. I had to build that website. I don't know what the hell I was doing, and I still don't know. But I have to keep on working stuff because we weren't able to afford people to do stuff for us. You got our website, it's still shit, I know that. But I know it's just got the basics on it, and it needs to be a bit more slicker and everything like that, but that's not my focus. I wanted to know what business are we in, and we had to spend 12 months working that out by looking at use cases. And then we got to know how to be very clear, how to be pin focused, how to be seen as the blockchain company in this country that is working on civic applications. And look at different opportunities. Don't think about collaboration, think about partnerships, things like that. But and also I think it's about having the right team together. Don't have a team full of devs. We love the devs, but they don't like talking to people. And that's fine, because they don't want to, but if having a VC, a venture capitalist in our company, is also a great benefit. I thoroughly recommend that. If you have someone, even if they're just an advisor, partner with someone right from get-go. Really do that. And make sure you got someone, you got some grey hairs, some wise heads in the team. Because when you do get to that point where you have to say, you need those wise heads around you. But there's a whole lot of other stuff, but tenacity, being crazy, believing in yourself.
Thank you, Katrina. We are so privileged to have Katrina. Put your hands together. So thank you for flying out the time tomorrow.
In Sydney at 9 o'clock tomorrow, so at 6:30. We're actually working with Standards Australia around the standard stuff, and oh my God,
get Mr. and Mrs. Bitcoin, because I can't just give you Mrs.
No, it's funny. This is like full circle for me, because this is what Sam. We have got my very first photo of Sam Lee and Lucas Cullen with one of these on my Twitter. You can see right back in time, Sam Lee, Lucas, and I with one of these in Brisbane. So this is very cool.
Thank you very much. Stick around, have a drink, have some music.
Start our pitch night tonight. Tomorrow we've got Introduction to Blockchain workshop, which is more of a deep dive about blockchain. On the 25th, we've got the Blockchain Ecology Conference, which is the Australia-China Expo. So there's a lot of trade and talk that's going to be happening on Saturday. If you are, I'll be hosting the panels there, so please come see me. if you don't want to talk about Chinese Trade Expo. But on the 29th, we've got the Blockchain APAC Summit that's happening here in Melbourne. It's enterprise events that's happening, so there's a full day of blockchain talks. Also on the 29th, we've got Talk and Trade that's happening here, which is our weekly catch up about what's happening in crypto and blockchain. We've got Women in Blockchain, we've got Katrina Donaghy from Civic Ledger coming down, so we're going to have a quick chat with her. We also have Farewell 85, so it's going to be our next Wednesday is our last day here. We are moving to Stone and Shore. So we're having a little farewell party, but please come join us on that. And I think I missed something with the co-working, that we are moving to Stone and Shore on the 3rd of September, so our last day here is going to be the 29th, when we're having the Farewell 85 party. On the 30th, we're also working with the Digital Innovation Festival here in Melbourne, so it's 2 weeks of events about digital innovations of AR, AI, VR, blockchain, emerging tech, entrepreneurs, startups, governance. We're doing a blockchain day at the Hub, which is a curate space. So we're starting off with the Blockchain Startup Pitch Club, where we've got 10 startups doing pitches in the morning. So they're going to do 5 minutes of pitches, and we're going to have 5 minutes of Q&A. The blockchain ecosystem with Akasha, Karen, and Alistair. We're going to be talking about it. All right. So they'll be talking about the ecosystem both here and abroad of different regulators and the key players that are happening within the field of blockchain. So who's working in it. So Akasha will be talking more about the international landscape. Karen will talk about the local communities and building that here in Melbourne and I guess other areas more of a centralized. Alistair is going to talk about the role of research and education in building that ecosystem. Plus we've got 2 other speakers that are here visiting coincidentally, one from Luxembourg and one from Germany, so they might be talking about what their ecosystem is like in those areas. Got Blockchain Disrupts Industry, so we've got Rita from Microsoft, Kieran, John, and Jag, which is one of the judges this evening. So they're going to be talking about the different industries that are going to be disrupted. So they're not all that specific about it, but they're going to be talking about how it is going to transform and change with this new technology. Rita's going to do the keynote from Microsoft. She should talk about Azure as well. But Kieran will talk about how education is going to be changing around. John's going to be talking about how the legal landscape will be transformed. And Jag will be talking about supply chains and how that's working out. And finally, at 6 o'clock, we've got Blockchain for Impact. So for me, the reason why I got into blockchain is because of the massive potential it is to better humanity and the environment and the world. So it's great to have Rosa, Jamie, Chris, and Anouk talk about that, and we're going to be talking about how this technology and how we as an ecosystem will work together to enhance both urban living, enhance humanity, enhance ecology, and enhance the environment. So please come along. All these events are separately at $5 each, so it's very reasonable. So please come along, so that has some light catering involved in it. Here we go, hot desk. This is what it looks like normally. This is what it's not going to look like in a week's time, because we'll be moving to Stone and Chalk on the 3rd of September. If you want to know more about our events and our meetups, please go to Eventbrite and Meetup. We also have the VIP community membership, so that is $50 to be part of pre-sale tickets, exclusive events, plus towards your next workshop. So workshops are $100 and $50 goes towards that. So it makes that up for it. So if you want to be part of that network and keep hearing about all the different things that we're working on, please become a member. If you are interested, please talk to us at the end. Block Engine is our incubator program. I know the 3 startups tonight have their own projects, so maybe they'll be part of the incubator program next year, but I wish them well this evening. But if you are interested as a startup or you know people, please email us at info@blockchaincentre.com.au. We are a not-for-profit, so without our partners, we wouldn't be here this evening. We've got Blockchain Global, Digital X, ACX, IBM, plus our new global strategic partner, which is Home. Other industry partners that we have, association partners here. These are our social media handles, so if you want to make a comment about this evening, if you want to just put a comment about who's your favorite startup this evening that's pitching, or want to learn and hear about what else we've been doing for the past 4 years. Blockchain Centre has been around for 4 years. Physically, we've been here since November. So a lot of content there for you to have a look at. But tonight's sponsor is ACX. So Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much, ACX, who's in the room. But for now, I would like to hand it off. But before that, I'm John. I'm the Events and Incubation Manager here at the Blockchain Centre. So please talk to me during the networking. But you've heard enough from me, so let me hand it off to our General Manager of Blockchain Centre, Karen Cohn.
I just want to introduce our judges for tonight. Is anyone interested in coming to blockchain, introduction to blockchain course tomorrow night? We've got flyers up here at the front, or we can pass them on. I want to introduce our judges tonight as well. So we have Kieran from D4, who is an investor in the room, so no nerves or anything anyway, very important. I've got Carey from ACX, who's kindly our sponsor tonight. So they're sponsoring drinks and food and a $100 prize on ACX. So good luck to the 3 pitchers. And Jag Giselle, who will be following this with a event about communicating your ideas and your startup ideas and getting your communication style right. So if you're interested in that, please stick around after a drink and he'll be presenting to our community. Welcome, you haven't missed anything, come on in. Right, so tonight we've got 3 pitches. Okay, we've got Freya from Beam. So the rules are very simple. Our judges have some criteria, which I've kindly given them to look at. They will score out of 10. And then at the end of the evening, while we're drinking and eating, they will confer and come back to us with a winner. So the hot room will be the office over there. You can have your very heated discussions. And so the rules are 5 minutes for pitching and 5 minutes for Q&A. First questions obviously go from the judges. I'll be running around with a timer and a mic. So without any more ado, we will hand over to Freya from Beam.
Thank you, Karen. Hi everybody, my name is Freya. I'm Head of Partnerships, Community and Events. So this is actually my first pitch because I am usually sitting on the other side of the fence and I usually make my co-founders do this. So please everybody, go easy on me tonight. Beam, so we are building the future of retail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a quick overview of what we currently are, because we are an existing business, where we're going to, and then our team. So Beam, we actually launched our first pilot in Sydney in 2011, and then we launched in 2012. So we are a mobile payments and rewards app. We're a demand generation platform. 2015, we launched our own version of smart contracts. 2017, we became an omnichannel demand generation platform where you can build your own smart contract as a merchant. And here we are in 2018, and we are building a 21st century acceptance network. So we actually launched in 2012 in the UAE, in Dubai. So these are some of our key statistics. We have 750,000 users across 3 countries. So we've got our pilot in Sydney, we're in the UAE, and we're also in Sweden. We have a throughput of 250 million USD, 4.3 million transactions or smart contracts that we've executed. We're live in 5,000 stores across the world, and then our technical acceptance network is 400,000. So what is Beam and what does it look like? At the moment, it's payments and rewards. So you go through, we are mobile phone agnostic and credit card agnostic. So you can pay in any of our partner stores. You essentially get 16% back on what you pay, and that comes back to the app in a monetary reward. And then you can go and pay that and we'll use those loyalty points or that loyalty money in any of our partner stores. So I'll give you an example. You go to Calvin Klein and you spend $100 on a pair of pants. And that $100 is actually, that you pay for it through the Beam app. It comes out of your bank account because it's connected to your credit card. So, and by the way, currently we're not on the blockchain. This is I'm telling you our current story of where we are, because we are a reverse ICO. So the $100 you spend, you get 16% back, so you get $16 back in the app where you can go and spend in our partner stores. So then you rock into Subway and you go and buy a $10 footlong sub, if that's what they cost at the moment, I don't know. And then you can actually pay for that through your rewards. So that doesn't come out of your bank. That's actually the rewards that you've earned, which are in your app, which is in the mobile. So transactions are made with merchants through a Bluetooth beacon there, and that's currently what we do. So the reason why we're going into blockchain is because it's easier for us to scale. At the moment when we go into a market, the biggest challenge for us is that we are the issuer, we're the partner, we're the acquirer, we play all of those roles. And so it is quite costly, and it's not a fast enough ability for us to scale. But with blockchain we can do that. So our biggest difference and I suppose our value proposition is that we have an existing business model that works. These are some of our partners, and this is also just kind of, I suppose, our escalation if I'm in the way there. So some of the biggest problems are, and that we're trying to solve, is that there's a war on data. So you don't own your data, Amazon own a part, Facebook own a part, it's very fragmented, and no merchant really has that true understanding of who you are. The retail value chain is being held hostage by incumbents that are in Visa, MasterCard, and there's no real incentive at the moment for any of those big businesses to change because they've got such a foothold on the market. So at the moment, there's roughly $4.5 trillion lost every year. And that's not just through product waste, it's advertising, marketing, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to actually keep flicking through, so I think I'm going to run out of time. Okay, so what we're doing is we're creating a platform where more people can, or more local partners can come on board and actually get more benefit, I suppose, out of the retail value chain. So let me find this. So at the moment, like I was saying to you before, we are the local partner acquirer, and we are essentially everything when it comes to the conversation between the merchant and the customer. But with the Beam platform that we are creating, and we're currently raising in our ICO for, apps like Airbnb can build onto our platform, and they can actually answer the smart contracts that other retailers are putting out into the system. So instead of us before the only ones answering those smart contracts, we're actually decentralizing our business model to allow more partners and more people to get in on these conversations that are coming through. So a really quick example. For example, there is a restaurant and they set their smart contract to be, okay, well, we want people through the door between 2 and 6, Monday to Friday when we're quite, we're not busy, and 30% of every transaction that goes through Beam, we will give that to the person who answers this smart contract. So, for example, Uber could take someone through, they could give them a free ride to the restaurant, and then they will actually get 30% of the transaction that goes through if it answers these characteristics that have been set out by the merchant. We're also doing, there's a little bit more on our token economy, but essentially all that is saying is for a local partner to buy into Beam currently, they can get more value and revenue of the transactions that are going through Beam for the merchants that they bring on board. So at the moment, say for a point of sale, they only get revenue off the machine that they sell, which is at the POS, as where if they're working through Beam, they actually get revenue based off the transactions that are going through the POS. Da-da-da-da. This is our team. These are our partners. So I'm not sure if anyone's heard Oliver Bussman. He's in the top, rated in the top 20 in the blockchain industry. Vinay Gupta was one of the founding members that built Ethereum. Roll ex-Visa in Europe. We've got Edgar Campers over at Coin. Kevy is ex-PayPal, and then Sergey is also working with Stellar. And these are some of our partners, and thanks.
Well done. This morning, and I've pounced on her and said she has to do a 5-minute pitch. So well done, Freya.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, questions from the judges.
Well, first of all, I'm going to make Chess a very fantastic presentation of what it is. I really want to touch on the business model of Beam. How do you guys make money at the end of the day?
Yeah. So currently how we make money is through those smart contracts that we orchestrate with the merchant. So customers pay for Beam, and the merchant, they essentially agree to the 16%, or there might be 11% that they give back to their customers. But the other half of Beam is demand generation. So we are working with merchants at the moment who set their own parameters on how we can best help them engage new customers, existing customers, and that is how we make our revenue through that. So for example, Costa Coffee, at the moment, they say to us, right Beam, if you can bring in a new customer to our store, we'll give you 25% of every transaction. If you can bring a returning customer, we'll give you 10% of every transaction. And so we don't actually take any money from the merchant until we execute on that smart contract. And so that's how we make money at the moment.
Thank you so much. I've got two questions. So 16% and 10% seems large. It seems like a really, really big discount. Is it sustainable for the retailer who has been that's big as what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so sure. So 10% isn't as big when you think about when you go to your coffee store and they have a loyalty program. It's like, hey, if you get 10 coffees, a 10th is free. It's essentially 10% of what you're spending. Because we are quite direct and specific with the customers that we are bringing to the store, it's a very streamlined approach and it's a return on investment for those merchants. So they can see the value in paying for those terms that they set. And the other thing too is they set the terms. So if they don't think that they can facilitate that, then that's on them to work out.
And are they pretty receptive? Like, you would have a sales force that go out and pitch them to merchants.
Are they receptive? So what we've done, yeah, so good question. So what we've done is we've been very strategic in the way that we've partnered our local partners that we bring on board. So for example, in the UAE, because we have such a strong foothold there, we've actually, our local partner there is MAF, which is essentially the Westfield of the UAE. So that's essentially how we bring in a lot of different stores kind of under those bigger umbrellas of those bigger businesses. Yeah.
And moving to the blockchain, when they get that 16% back, will it come back in a token?
Yeah, good question.
And will they be able to spend it on exchanges?
Yeah. Good question. So currently, we're not going to be using the blockchain for the payment, because at the moment, it's not going to be as good a user experience for our customers. So we do endeavour to get there, but what our token will be used for, and this is why it's a utility token, it's for more the other side of growing in those regions. So when we go into, so for example, we went into the UAE and MAF has, invested quite a lot of money in Beam. So if we were to take that same approach now with our token and where we're at, it essentially alleviates the need for us to sit with every kind of big entity and local partner and work out terms. It will be standard terms, they buy in, they get the token, and then they can run from there. So what happens is, if you're a local partner and you just say you buy the rights for Australia, and you have this as your region, every merchant that you bring on, for every transaction that goes through, you earn revenue off every transaction that happens. So there's incentive there for essentially every player that comes into the Beam network to grow the network, because the more scale we get, essentially the more revenue they make through the transactions on the platform.
Thank you. I just had this similar sort of question,
Yeah.
but I'll ask, how far are you on the project at the moment with blockchain implementation?
Yeah, great. Thanks for that question. So we have, we've announced our ICO at the World Blockchain Forum in June in New York. So that was our first kind of official step. We are currently in our private pre-sale of our token sale. We will be looking to round out our raise towards the end of the year, so whether that falls to October, November. As I'm sure everyone is aware at the moment, the market's not amazing. So we'll be looking to actually build and implement the platform in Q1 next year. Start building it, mate.
Thank you.
Sorry, how do you guys propose to distribute the money you raise, and how do you propose to use the money that you raise through ICO?
How will we use it? Okay, yeah, good question. So we will have a portion of it that goes to me see if I can get this right. So we'll have a portion that will actually build the platform. We have a portion that will go to, we've got obviously our advisory, we've got legal, we've got marketing costs, we've got liquidity. I do, and it's yeah. So I knew there would be one question.
How many tokens are for sale?
So it'd be 10 billion.
Sorry, percentage-wise of the.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. I don't really know. I can't really tell you off the top of my head because I just don't actually. I would need to refer to something, but it's essentially like building the platform is 40%. We've got 10% liquidity fund. So if anybody wants to sell their tokens, we've got the ability to buy back 10%. But I can send you that. We're going to catch up in
And I suppose that's the ERC20 token.
Yes, it is on Ethereum, definitely.
Thank you. Thanks, Freya.
Thanks, guys. Thank
you. All right. We now have Troy from Metex.
Hi everyone. So tonight I'll be quickly presenting to you a very unique opportunity, and it's called Metex. It stands for Metals Token Exchange, and it'll be the first crypto and metals trading exchange to be launched worldwide. Now there are already metals exchanges. We've got the London Metals Exchange, but they're very much old paper trail style exchanges where they still use Excel spreadsheets. Today you can go on their website, look it up and get all the pricing that they set every day. So this exchange is being built on a technology that will then allow the listing of blockchain assets on it, which is what you'll see when we go through this. So a quick disclaimer there, all standard stuff. We're not here to sell you anything tonight. We're actually here to get feedback and also have the opportunity to find people who want to potentially work with us or support the community we're going to be creating. Our Metex team consists of 6 core people. I'm one of the co-founders. I actually termed the company Metex in January this year. We actually started the company in April. We registered in March, and after I got back from the Caribbean from working on another trade exchange, we started Metex. So we've been going for about 5 months. In that time, Andrew Sarsi is our co-founder and managing director. He's helped raise $700,000 for this project already, which has seed funded most of our work so that we can go to market with a minimum viable product. Andrew Kazemko, a long-term friend of mine, we worked in Forex together and also mining. He's the CEO, and he's just flying back to Europe tonight. And basically, he's setting up our strategy to be able to do an ICO, but also we call that initial community offer, because we've got a very different model, but also an IPO, which will soon follow that. Rajiv Verma is our CTO, worked with me a number of years ago when I ran my Forex industry business, and he was developing Forex platforms. So he and the team that we've got in India have built out our exchange platform. Rez Samad, a very good friend of mine, also very strong banking and digital background, also a key part of the team. And then Dean Pinnell, one of the top advisors from BCT, Blockchain Terminal, who's also joined us in the last 2 months to help us put together our 80-page white paper we've got already, and then the tech paper that will come after that for our stack. So what you're seeing here is literally a startup, in the sense we've only been going for about 4 or 5 months. But during that time, we've been working really hard to see where the opportunity is in the market and what pain is being felt by the crypto traders out there and how we can alleviate some of that. So the Metals Token Exchange will have the top 20 plus crypto assets listed on it. We'll be trading top 10 metal trading assets, which we will create, which will include gold, silver, platinum, palladium, nickel, aluminium, copper, zinc, tin, and cobalt. Right, so we'll be tokenizing those assets and then having it physical in storage, not allocated, which is a contract, sitting on our exchange that people can buy and trade. We will be trading Bitcoin and Ethereum against all the major, across those 10 metal token pairs, including Australian dollars. We will then have Euro and USD come on board pretty quickly after that. So we'll have a trading option for the advanced traders and a very simple option for those who just want to buy gold and silver on our platform and not trade it. So we're setting up the Thomson routers for live information feeds, and we've already built our mobile phone trading app. So that's just a quick snapshot of where we're at already. So what is MEDX? Well, yes, it's a cryptocurrency and metals trading exchange, but where are the metals kept? All right, where would you like them to be kept? Who'd like them to be kept in Australia? I think that would be one of the safest places in the world to keep your metals. All right, so we're looking at putting our storage in Australia, in Port Adelaide, for our base metals, and our precious metals will be stored here in Melbourne. All right, as a start. Community-based ownership of all the metals, which means when we sell the metals, the company doesn't own the metals, the community owns the metals. Those who actually come on board and actually purchase the metals through their through the exchange, they own and trade it. So we can't, go and sell them off or run it or start trading ETFs on it or derivatives. So the other solution is that basically through this concept, we can help people take the risk out of trading metals. We can actually take the risk out of mining as well, where people invest in mining companies and operations, to get a good return on investment down the track. Might take a year, 2 years, or 3 years. I've invested in a number of mining companies, and some of them still haven't, gone into production. Here you can invest and trade in the end product. To trade metals today is a very hard thing to do, right? If you want to trade metals, you have to trade on one of the big exchanges, and then you've got to know and understand options, ETFs, futures, TAPOs, mini contracts, all that sort of stuff. If you trade on Forex platforms, buying and selling gold against currencies, well, if you're over leveraged, you don't know what you're doing, you can go to zero pretty quickly, right? On our system, there'll be no third-party intermediaries, no complicated contracts. If you want to buy and sell, you can quite easily on our platform. So if you go and buy physical metal right now from the Perth Mint, right, and then you walk out the door, come back and try to sell it to them, will they buy it back off you? No, they won't, right? In most cases, none of the bullion exchanges will buy it back off you. And if they do, will you get the same price that you paid for it? No, you won't, you'll get less. So on our exchange, we'll be tokenizing metals, right? You buy, you sell, you're not going to be losing money the moment you walk out of the computer room where you're trading, right, or you get off your keyboard. So it's 100% backing in metals, fully insured. We are going to have simple trading systems to make this accessible to everyone. Transparent, audited, all the stuff that we need. We'll even have physical metal delivery solutions in place for the bigger boys who want to play on our platform or trade, and the ability for people to trade out of their metal assets and take a physical redemption in pure gold or pure silver. So 2 tokens. We have a utility token, which will be an ERC20 token, which we're now designing the architecture for, and then we have metal token assets, which are backed by physical metals, and they're being programmed and built on the NEM blockchain. So the MTEs can be traded on other exchanges, and the metal tokens will only be traded on MEDX exchanges. So blockchain, how do we use it? Well, we're using NEM for our assets because we found it's probably one of the easiest to work with, but we'll also be using NEM to program the whole tokenization and delivery process of those assets and when they go into storage, because we can put a lot of information on that as we do that. So for example, we can record where the gold came from, the weight of the gold, how we tokenize the gold into how many units, and then where we physically store the gold. And then we can QR code it using NEM. So we've already worked that all through. So now we're just about to, we've already tokenized some gold and silver already using the NEM blockchain as part of our beta testing. So this is one of the applications we're using for NEM. One of the other applications we're using is for voting and governance on our platform. Our MEDX trading platform is already built. It's already in a beta test right now. If I pull it up right now, it'll take me too long. So what's the exchange technology built on? Well, as I said, I was in the Forex industry before. I actually had an IT-based business in Malaysia and in India, and that team, when I was working in that, when I had that team, worked on different exchange technologies. After I left that business, and I went to the jungles, literally, in the South Pacific, and got involved in rural economic development, mining. They went and built the Dalian Commodity Exchange, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and the Shanghai Stock Exchange. So this platform that we're using is actually a very robust platform, and we've now been working on this platform for the last 4 months and preparing it to take crypto and to trade these commodities on it that we're putting on it. All right, so it does, right now, we've been audited at 250,000 transactions per second on this platform. All right, we'll be working with Imperva for the security, Reuters as well. We've got a few good partnerships coming on board. And this is where our uniqueness comes in. You're not joining an exchange that's owned by just private individuals, right? This is a cooperative business model we've put in place. We spent a lot of money getting advice and looking at different models. And basically, we've been just registered as a cooperative here in Australia, and we've set up our co-op to work as an ecosystem. So people will come in as different levels of members, from club members to pioneer members who actually invest in buying a basket of metals, and then self-managed super funds, and then we have different partners. Like for example, the Blockchain Centre will be a partner. So if you come through and you actually come through the Blockchain Centre's referral link, Blockchain Centre will have the opportunity to earn income from you being a member and trading on our platform. So as a MEDEX cooperative, then we have Flagstone and Custodial Foundation partners, and they provide all the services to the cooperative, which has a social purpose. And that purpose is for us to teach and educate people not only on how to trade metals, but how to generate wealth through different digital asset classes.
Troy's gone over time, so we don't have time for questions. As we can see, it's very hard to summarise such a complex idea and project in 5 minutes, right, Troy? All right, so we might move on. Thank you, Troy. One question from him, can come and see him after the session. Okay. Here we are, on circle.
I'll stick to 5 minutes. I'll try.
We'll wait for Julius to load up. Judges, did you have any questions for Troy?
Yeah, thank you. I really wanted to touch on the liquidity side of things, especially when it comes to those precious metals that are created for under the non-blockchain, because bringing liquidity into your exchange might be a very difficult part of things, other than just doing the ICO part. What's your solution to bringing the liquidity?
Okay, so basically for liquidity, we will be registering partnerships with different exchanges so that we can have the opportunity to, have them also have market makers on our exchange, and then they can share in that process. We've got brokers that want to look at actually joining the platform, and so we'll be working with them as well. Okay. So this is actually a cryptocurrency exchange as well, so you can trade your normal standard top 20 crypto assets on the same time, but you have the opportunity to take out your profits and hold it in more of a stable, less volatile crypto asset like a metals-backed asset.
Right. my sort of question is, because we work in ACX and also Blockchain Global. We do market making and liquidity, providing liquidity to different markets as well. So what we do in a daily operation is we have a target exchange and also a source exchange to providing the liquidity from to actually supplying that specific asset. I mean, if your commodities, if your precious metal can only be traded within your exchange, then it might be a bit hard to provide a decent amount of liquidity. That's my sort of concern.
Yeah, we understand.
You're dealing with one of the most challenging things. You're trying to align a digital asset with a physical asset. So when I get a token, is that an equivalent nugget of gold, and how do I know which nugget of gold is mine? So how are you aligning the digital and the physical?
So the digital assets, when they're programmed, are actually tied to the actual metal itself. So where that metal was sourced from, which company sold it into the company, what block it was from, right, and where it's being stored, and how we tokenize that, the weight and the metallurgical basically composition of that. So everything's done through an RF scan and then it's QR coded. So we know then basically where each token came from which block.
Right. So it's a QR code that aligns the digital with the physical.
We will have a QR code as part of that. So basically then the physical asset sits in storage. We do not burn tokens. If anyone wants to cash out a physical token, they need to cash it out into basically Bitcoin or into another crypto asset, and then we will give them the option to to go to a vending machine, which we're securing out of Singapore, which I worked on as a advisor for another company called Pure Gold, where they have a vending machine. They can take out gold and silver out of that, or sell down their assets to gold and silver.
So you put a sticker on the gold nugget with the QR code?
That's in storage. Yeah, so it's different. So we know we can track all, what's being tokenized coming in through that process.
Troy. I think. All right, Julia.
Hello, everyone. Hello. So I'm Julia's son. I'm here to talk about Circle today. So what is Circle? So Circle is actually a share economy platform that enables shoppers to monetize their wardrobes. So Circle was actually created by myself and two of my co-founders, Anya and Rajiv, who is our resident techie and numbers guy, respectively. So unfortunately, they can't be with us. They can't be here with us today. So I wanted to talk about how Circle was born. So Circle was born in a way that it was all about finding a solution to one of my very own problems, and a problem of, I think, far too many women. And given that it's majority men in this room, I was actually hoping there'd be more females so I could be a little bit more relatable. But you can ask your wives, your girlfriends, your sisters, or even your mums. They might be going through the exact same problem. So those stats up there, that's actually quite a well-known fact. And that's on average, women wear only 25% of their wardrobes on a regular basis. That is incredibly wasteful. Whether it's because they've outgrown it, it doesn't fit properly, it was an impulse buy, or just for the fact that, you know what, sometimes you just can't wear things twice, right? How many of you have heard your loved ones complain to you that they have an entire wardrobe full of clothes and they're telling you, I have nothing to wear? Every day, right? So I wanted to create Circle for millennial shoppers like myself, as well as Gen Z, to be able to access more of what they do want and own less of what they don't through various sharing mechanisms. By extending the lifespan of their wardrobes through resale, lease, and co-buy, which is a new concept that I came up with, what we can essentially do is help shoppers build a very up-to-date quality wardrobe at little cost. So who would rather wear high-end Australian designers over cheap H&M? Hands up, right? Without breaking an arm and a leg. And that's for the consumers. For the businesses. So the businesses themselves. So in terms around the problem of wastage, it's not entirely a consumer problem. it's also a business problem. Businesses don't know what consumers want. And although data is everywhere, just because they have access to data doesn't mean businesses can actually interpret data correctly. So what we want to do is help businesses as a data and analytics hub is to turn information into actionable advice. So businesses can actually produce and provide more of what their consumers want. This in turn also reduces the problem around wastage. So just a couple of very quick stats around this. On a global scale, 1 in 3 people in the States buy secondhand. It's a huge market. And the market that's really grown in the last few years is the online rental market. So you would never thought that people would actually be renting clothes. But it's it was expected to be at about 1.9 billion in a couple of years. And that was a market that actually didn't even exist 4 or 5 years ago. And how does Australia fare? Well, in Australia, fashion takes up 35% of all online purchases. That is a huge market, and that's not surprising because Australia is actually the 2nd largest consumers of textiles in the world. So we purchase on average 27 kilos compared to the global average of 13. So I won't go through all those stats, but you can see there's obviously a huge opportunity here. And who's our target market? So predominantly Gen Y, so us millennials, and Gen Z, and also Gen X. But with Gen Y and Gen Z, they're going to be the 2 largest demographic of shoppers in the coming years. And they're going to be the drivers of this economy. And the one thing that they do have in common is the characteristic of they want access over ownership. So longer are the days where owning something was your #1 priority. They want to spend their hard-earned cash on having experiences and looking good while they're doing it, thanks to social media. And competitors, who are competitors in this space? In terms of blockchain, there are none, but in terms of the traditional platforms, there's a few B2C, C2C rental platforms, as well as C2C platforms for resale, like eBay, Facebook, Gumtree. So look, we're not here to reinvent the wheel. These guys, they're web-based, it's clunky, but what we do differ in terms is our technology and also our concept of co-buy. I don't have time to go through all of it, but co-buy is a concept that I came up with. It's essentially where 2 people will buy a single item where they will have part-time access and part-time ownership. It reduces the holding cost of holding an expensive item in your wardrobe that's gathering dust. So that's essentially a concept of time sharing. And let's move on to the blockchain and why we actually need that. We can actually build this whole thing on just a normal platform, but what blockchain is going to provide is that trust and transparency, which is one of the biggest issues when it comes to marketplaces and dealing and trading with people that you don't know. One of the things that you can do with this is to have the utilization of smart contracts. So users themselves can stipulate terms and conditions and execute co-sharing transactions on their own, protecting both sides of the parties. And what we want to do is also create a decentralized system where poor user behavior is discouraged through our scorecard system and have escrow service and decentralized dispute resolution. So all of this will essentially, what we want to create for our users is that we will have all of this in the background. Our users are 15 to 35. They're not gonna want to know all of this. What they want to know is that they get on the app, it looks like a normal app, but they can trade in a safe and secure manner. And this is essentially how our users, both consumers and businesses, will get rewarded. And this will form the basis of our 4 business models. So as you can see, there's C2C, C2B, B2C, B2B. So how we monetize our transactions and the clothing themselves is predominantly through C2C and B2C. But how we monetize the data will be through transfer of data from C to B and B to B. And how do we make money? So our business model is simple: subscription and transaction fees. We encourage our users to subscribe to access better pricing and deals. However, they can also choose to opt pay as you go, like what they do currently with eBay and some of the other websites. What we're looking for. So we're still, as I mentioned, we're in very early stages. So we're still halfway through seed round Series A, where we're looking to raise $750. We're doing that through superannuation. We're tapping into superannuation monies for the initial pot, and that will be able to give us the ability to build MVP and acquire users. Series B will be private deals and then public sale of our tokens. In terms of the depth of our business model, we see this to be able to vertically and horizontally scale. So with the concept of time sharing, that can easily be applied to things such as equipment, tools, cars, and boats. How many times, who here lives on a block on a townhouse? A block of townhouses. Right. So do you have a lawnmower? Does your neighbor have a lawnmower? Does everyone have a lawnmower? How many times do you mow your lawn? Once a month, right? So what we see is anything that's high value, low usage, that time sharing concept can be applied to every single one of those categories. And then we can also obviously scale horizontally to different markets. And this is the founding team, myself, Anya, who's our CTO, and Rajiv, who's our CFO, and just our board of advisors across fashion, AI, blockchain, marketing, and also tax here in Australia. Just lastly, these are some of the what the app could potentially look like. So it's all very user friendly, very much playing into that 15 to 35-year-old space. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Questions from our judges, yes. Love the idea, very good. Love the use case as well, very and nicely done, the pitch as well. I've just got one question about the team.
Yeah.
About how many businesses or what sort of experience you have to run this?
That's a really good question. Well, so the thing is, my background is in finance. This is my first startup. I agree. No, I don't have any tech experience, but I do have a lot of experience with resale, rentals. I ran an online business, so I'm really familiar in terms of the user side. And that's what my role is in terms of this team. We are looking to add on to our team at the moment, so we are expanding and we are looking for people to be able to bring that strength in terms of particularly around tech and also the blockchain aspect as well.
The advice would be, right, don't fail forward, get somebody else to help you out.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, hi. I got a few comments. My previous background was in the VC in China back in the days 2014, 2015, around that time period. And that business model that is definitely a proven business model, so congrats to that. There's no worries about that. But first question is, do you think blockchain is really necessary a solution to your business model right now? Maybe we can, you can just use ICO as a fundraising mechanism just to get some funds going and providing utility as maybe some sort of discounts to the subscription or some other sorts. So that's one of my questions, and the other will be, what's your roadmap? Do you have a proof of concept right now, or is it a work in progress?
Yeah, so in terms of, your first question, I agree with you. Like, we don't need to be implementing blockchain right now. As I said, our target market is in that age bracket where they don't even know what blockchain is. So what we want to be able to do is release MVP. Our MVP will be just on fiat. We won't be deploying any of the technology. So that's why we want to use the MVP to have proof of concept, and we're about to start development soon. So we want to release a very lightweight MVP in the next 3 months to be able to get it out to beta testers and get as much feedback as possible while building the rest of the features for the next 3 to 4 months. And then once we raise the money through Series B, that's when we'll start to look at deploying that technology and then having that integrate seamlessly into our app.
Sorry, just to additional point, I think if you've got some sort of different angle into the Chinese market, definitely that will be added bonus. To be honest, there are a whole bunch of customers out there in need of this sort of services.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because rentals have just begun to be quite popular in China. Yeah. There's a lot of subscription boxes, businesses that's sort of popping up on WeChat businesses. So I think even the Chinese people, they're starting to move away from that, thinking that, okay, like the first thing you think about is hygiene, right? So in Australia, in most Western countries, we're beyond that. But in China, they're still very solely focused on that. And I think if they can get over that hump, then I feel like this will be really big over there as well.
So, as an investor, if you are successful, what would stop the big companies like eBay, Google, Amazon, just copying it and really taking over the market due to already having that customer base?
I mean, if eBay really wanted to take on this market, they'd be doing rentals right now, because the eBay's sole focus isn't fashion, right? So they're not fashion focused.
But they are always looking for new revenue streams, just like every company is. So my fear would be that if this really took off, that the big boys would just run away with it.
Well, then it's all about us getting, having speed to market then.
Or being bought out.
Oh yeah, that's it. That is what we hope to also happen. That's also ideal as well.
Thanks. Any questions from the audience? Julia? No? I'm looking forward to sharing clothes with you. All right. Very, very great pictures tonight. Really exciting. So the judges have some hard work to do. We'll leave them in the room to confer while we get to eat and drink and be merry. And then stick around because Jag's got some really great lessons to share with us. And you want to see who won too. So don't run away. Okay. Bye.
Yeah, I think that you've had a lot of questions in terms of
Pizza? Pizza? Bring pizza in. Anything
Do you get the pizza?
Is catering boss? Where's Harley? There you are, Harley. Oh, sorry, Tom.
Sorry.
See ya.
It's more or less, I think, it's just more the because they're like 8 hours, so they're 8 hours. So Reggie's is like, let's just how are you guys? I was like, yeah.
Hey, are you filming ready? Are you filming on? There's lots of filmers tonight.
I'm like, I was just like, impossible. You have your and the ones that we keep oh, actually, that's really not true.
I think you should ask for not only a quote
another day, the line, shit, then we're going to dump it. So that's how we were going to work. And then we said that we could do this on renew it after the 2 weeks. So we have the 2 weeks come out and don't do it because that's the one thing we actually do. Yeah, they just don't deliver on time. So rarely do they deliver on time. So I think yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's like 150 for the whole thing, that's pretty good. That's actually we were, the other ones were so lightweight is about 50 to 60 US. So, and that's the lightweight probably now there's a lot of both teams are like, so what happened is like we had a list, we said we want this done in 2 months, and we can do 70%, and then we had to cut it down, so then we can live.
I got so much people yeah, but it's on the line. Because I know some of the companies like very expensive assets. Like when you said hardware, yeah, the right hardware, yeah. I don't need like a big plan. I used to do like a recent one, but that was like 5,000 plus. Is that going to be like a visual data to make sure everybody is like in the same suburb, like same area? Because otherwise, like for example, if something is very expensive, it's like shipping, but it's like for health, maybe the price is just 100 plus, so average shipping is like $100. Probably don't want to. I mean, ideally, that would be by location. Obviously, that would be like the cost of it, but obviously, it's not. Like, probably wearable clothes, but you're probably not going to so there's not going to be that much like back and forth. So that's why we find it resell as well. So it's not just the one option. So we just want to build that up to top of what's really available. Like, actually, so I bought this comparison. I don't do like this. But I totally got scammed. I paid for an item, I got $200, and then she was like, MIA, didn't respond to me, didn't send me the video. Now they're really facing $3, but it's taking us. So we have these smart contracts.
G'day. Are you one of the people that helps out here, or do you visit here regularly? You help out as well. I thought I saw you on a number of occasions. For my group, I just come along. So, when I feel like driving into the city, I don't want to drive into the city really. But this boat makes me I think I only started coming along last year, but I'm interested in it's good to have something that can help us try. Oh yeah, that's for sure. What tree you tell me about? But still, just to hear about it was good. And then you heard about it a number of times, and eventually.
Become serious last year. Before that, it was like 6 months.
Yeah, pay attention. You will now. Me too. Just a question of time.
So for you to
Thanks to people like you that we can enjoy this.
When I've been on blockchain, because I'm addicted
Still? No. X, that's why I say X.
I remember when I was there, when I'm like cash.
The banks don't like cash.
So it's tax office. They want everything to try and find everything on the ledger, so they've got like that. So in the back of my mind, there must be a way where they can actually come up with a
I know that
that's when it comes to
last night I was listening,
The question is whether
that is the question. It's not up to the bank.
And you've had very good insights working Which areas did you get involved in?
I started in Australian stock shares for
like the food
trading forex.
Is that the one? Is that the most specific? You have to be very experienced to do it.
High risk, high volatility. We're living it's a $5.5 trillion day market
That requires a considerable amount of experience. I mean, if I tried to do that, it would be a disaster.
Yeah, it takes me get into it and put into the time and progress.
Which exchange do you use for, or which software do you use for trading? Are you one of those, or do you use a company for MP4? MetaTrader as well. Which one's more popular? Oh, MT4. Okay. 70%.
Yeah, 70%. So now they have come up with domestic trading. And not much of it.
Well, they're familiar with. They're already familiar. It's a big learning curve.
They've been living with it. It's learning curve. So it's a multi-use system.
Well, what's the comparison between the volatility on Forex and the volatility on crypto? Is it similar?
Low volatility. Hardly move. It's only on the ATV day. Trading on the channel.
Yeah, but
Forex is like on my trading. Volatility is number 2. Number 3 is
But crypto would be the most volatile. Forex the second most volatile. Okay.
Forex is the most volatile. They come with an announcement. Each company, each country comes with an announcement. It's very hard to get some sort of news announcement that will drive the currency price.
Yeah. So how do you keep track of that news? By the program, by the MTQ?
They have that too. You can track it via their market website.
Yeah.
Like forexfactory.com. It's on
Forex Factory.
That's what's common with that release of weekly announcement. There's some announcement comes in categories or very hot, whatever. Take advantage.
Which one do you think is the best for crypto news?
Trading or
which newspapers?
I'm not really into crypto. I tried trading early this year. And through my brother, it's already so high. I make money, but it's not half of my money comes every month. So the company is very volatile. Until I see that it comes into the level of forward high, spread.
So would you consider yourself like a day trader or a swing trader?
I used to do day trading and now I'm doing swing trading, something, a combination.
What's the first one? Did you say scalping?
Yes.
Is that really quick?
Let's say the next 5 minutes, the announcement. The US announcement is going to rise by 5%. What's going to happen? When the announcement comes out, it's going to rise 5%. It's going to shoot up to you start, you start, you buy a really quick, set it at the price level, buy a little bit, sell it, and then when it get up, you target 10, 15, 10, 15.
Do you short it at the same time?
Unless you are a fund manager,
Our judges have conferred. Can we get everybody back, please? Do we want to find out who won?
So,
Blockchain Centre pitch night. Getting more sophisticated. Alright. Feedback from the judges, guys. John, I need your deep voice. Need the game show voice.
Could people please take their seats? We will be about to announce the winner. Can you please take your seats?
No, they don't. No, they do it like in airports, when plane. There's an emergency, like you get a crash, they use the life release. That's their main
Alrighty. So, our judges have had a very difficult decision tonight. And they're going to give some feedback now. So, where have we got? Julia? Julia? Yeah, And she's getting closer to my clothes size, so we can keep eating. And we've got Troy. Okay. And unfortunately, we've lost Freya. He's gone for dinner. So, Jag?
Yes.
That was you.
My feedback for Circle team is, I think I love the idea. Like the idea, the way it was presented. One of the big things which I believe is missing. There's a lot of businesses like this out there at the moment. There's a couple of them. I already know that because a couple of friends are already doing it in Sydney. They've been doing it from the last couple of years. Turnover 1.5 to 2 million right now. So they already in the business and they're already doing the work. So it's very quick for them to actually start the work if they want to do the blockchain. I think I would actually highly recommend if you want to work on this, as I said earlier, get a lot of people who are experienced in this field to get you guys. Otherwise, it's just going to be a lot of hard work. Yeah.
On top of that, I really like the idea of Circle, to be honest, because I have a girlfriend as well, so I experience that on a daily basis, especially the time when I have to pay for it, unfortunately. But seriously, I think the entry level, to entry in the market, the barrier gets too high, and I personally don't think that 750K is going to be sufficient enough to hold the market. But it really depends on your go-to-market strategy. You know, really want to, if you're going to launch in Australia, that might be sufficient. But if you're going to launch in the rest of the places with the bigger market, then that might be seems a little insufficient. So I might have to work on that a little bit. And also, I think I suggest to work on the fundraising mechanism, and doesn't necessarily use blockchain to to raise funds, or we can think about it some other ways. And so that's pretty much it. But saying that, I really like your confidence, the way of your presentation is really engaging, even though the majority are male, unfortunately. But yeah, keep in touch if you need more help not just from Blockchain Centre, but also from Blockchain Growers. Please let me know. And also, I want to touch on the MADX. I think so. For MADX, we all think it's a very difficult discussion, to be honest, because it's actually a very huge, very complicated, very complex, and yeah, very promising project in the long run. But we think it might be it require a huge amount of funding when it comes to go-to-market strategy or bringing up online and provide a very successful and stable operation on top of everything else. Because on a daily basis, we're providing liquidity to different markets and different changes. So I have a very more moderate understanding of providing liquidity to certain markets, and I feel like if that market, if some of the commodity is not liquid, then it might be pretty hard to get the traders on board and thus it might be pretty hard to make some decent amount of revenues. But saying that, we can definitely work around with it. And the Beam, that's personally what we decide will be the winner of this competition, the winner of this pitch. And because Beam actually has a proven business model, a track record, and very good user interface as well. And with that 16% of the cashback, that might be a little too much, but I think we can work on that as well. So we wanted to work on the local business partners and go-to-market strategy in Australia as well. But other than that, that's my comments.
So my comments, a little bit about what I do day to day is I spend 10 hours looking through ICOs every day. So white papers, the same thing. You see all the common terms used: serial entrepreneur, disruptive, is a good one, and just the same thing over and over. So it's hard to get all the information that I need from the 5-minute pitch, especially from METEX, because you need to spend time to really understand how it all works. With Circle, so my comments on Circle is there is going to be market leader. There will be. Hands down, there will be a Gumtree or an eBay or an Amazon. There will be a market leader. Hello. Yeah, a market leader for sharing. Saying that, as an ICO coming into that field, being really competitive, you would need an all-star team. You would need like X VPs of eBay. You would need these like a massive amount of team. Hello. Is that okay? Yep. I like the idea, but you really need depth in the team. And then I think it could come off, but you would have to tour this. You would have to do exactly what everyone's doing here, travel around and get the word out. And I think Circle, for me, is at the stage of pitching for team members. That's what I would be doing. That would be my advice, to go around and pitch for team members at blockchain summits and that sort of thing. Okay, to strengthen that up. METEX, if all boxes were ticked for me on METEX, jumping into the white paper, token economics, all that sort of stuff, like token metrics, sorry, it could be the missing link. It really could be the missing link between trading houses, traditionally now, and moving to you guys, because I don't trade metals, but it sounds like a nightmare. Like, you know, like waiting for trades and these Excel spreadsheets and all this sort of stuff. It would absolutely do my head in as a day trader. So if all the boxes were ticked on METEX, I think it could be huge. It could be the missing link. What I'd really like to know about it is the storage facilities and the outgoings for that, because it's an exchange, but with a massive outgoing cost. So I'd like to know more about that. We did go with Beam for our winner, but I do feel that it's only due to METEX only having 5 minutes or 10 minutes, let's be honest. Okay, because it's so complex, you know, and we had a whole bunch of questions that we couldn't ask. We did pick Beam. What we liked about Beam is all day long I'm looking at ICOs, like I said, 30 to 40% of them are transaction bonus coins, spending, trying to spend crypto sort of thing. So they have an established business. I'm not sure how you would sell it to Westfield with 16% being off everything. Hello? Yep, so that's what we'd like to dive in, but as an investment, once again, without seeing the token metrics, if we had 100 grand to put somewhere, that's what we all agreed that we'd put it in there, because it's an easy sale. I would use it. If I go to Westfield and have 16% off everything, I'll drive another 2, 3, 4 kilometres to go there. I definitely would. So that's our winner, so congratulations to Beam.
Congratulations to Beam, Freya, adding the universe. I'll drop her prize off. Thank you to our fantastic judges, Carrie, Jag, Kieran. Thank you to our pitchers. It takes a lot of guts to get up here, doesn't it? Yeah, so, but hopefully you've got a whole room of advisors here, so, you know, we love your ideas. Thank you to METEX for pitching in the last minute. Thanks everybody. Stick around for Jag's special presentation, and I'll get the super prize to Freya. Okay, thanks. Bye.
I'm just going to set it up. Who is actually working on a blockchain startup, an idea at the moment, or any startup at the moment? Anybody working on it? Yeah, so you'll find that because I'm going to be talking about the startups and how you get started with the blockchain and how you actually take your idea to ICO. Right? So a lot of us spent last many years looking at the ICO, so I'm going to share my experience. I work as a VC as well. I look at a lot of pitches, so I'll share that experience today as well. So, right? Give me 5 minutes to set it up.
that was about 9 months after we and we spoke to the time about that Satoshi basically died. Rolled it into yeah, so when we launched 3 years ago, our just like pretty polished, not we did it within 18 months, 9 months after live market, quite exactly same growth rate, same front end, and so they will do that. Pretty good just over. Yeah, so the data is what's going to give us the economy. It's going to give us a competitive advantage.
Alrighty, let's get started. Okay, we good to start? Yep. I'll try to wrap it up in 20, 23 minutes, see how quickly I can do it. Yep. Alright, let's get started. So if you guys working on any startup today, or you're working on an ICO, or you have any traditional startup, you'll find this very useful. But also if you're trying to work on something based on your skill set, most of us, that's what we do, right? When we start a startup, we start on based on our skill set. So if you're working on something in technology, if you're working on something based on where you've been working from last many years and starting
Sorry.
very quickly, disclaimer, you can see the educational stuff. I'm not selling. Hey guys, if you could be quiet, please. Otherwise, come and sit here.
Sit in the front.
Yes, come here. So this is what I'm going to talk about. How to take your idea to the market, right? So this is about startups, if you're looking to do a startup. So what brings you here, right? So I know you guys here, so I'll quickly skip it. Just want to give you a very quick introduction about me. Who am I? My name is Jack Jessel. I used to work for companies like IBM, Oracle, and I left my job as an enterprise architect. That was in 2015. Then we did a startup which worked really well, sold it for $3 million, and started a new company in 2017, started teaching people about blockchain. And I've been in the industry, I did 13, 14 startups before that, but failed at every startup. So that wasn't only my one startup which succeeded. So that was my 14th startup, which was successful. Before that, every startup failed. I've been doing it for the last 18 years. Right, so now I run a company called Blockchain Experts Academy. That company is the fastest growing education company at the moment in this country. We teach people how to become a consultant, an advisor, or an expert in this specific area. Let's get started. Just very quickly, why most businesses fail. One of the biggest reasons I've seen again and again, it happens so many times, people or the businesses fail because it's just the lack of the skill set, the person who's starting. It's nothing to do with the business itself. Business idea might be the best idea in the world, but the reason they fail, because people in that space, they get, like the saying goes, you get in life who you are, not, you get in life what you are, not what you want, right? So people don't spend time on skilling themselves or learning new skills. They always try to do things differently, but not having the skill set. That's the biggest reason why any startup or any businesses fail today in this country. Here's the common scenario. Most businesses get started by the engineers or artists, people who are very good at what they do. And one day something happens, they wake up and they said they want to start a business. So something like, I don't like my boss, I'm going to start a business. I like this idea, I'm going to start a business. I don't like to be at home, I'm going to start a startup. All that sort of stuff happens in one night. The entrepreneur just wake up somewhere from somehow, and he says that, get up and start a business. Before that, entire life, they work as an engineer, as an artist, as somebody technical or whatever in this space is. You work and do something and get paid for that. After a few months, they realize that this is something totally different. That's not what they expected. So they just wake up and say, I don't actually like this. And all the work which is supposed to happen, which they wanted to do, they actually started to think that's a nightmare now. So that's where the problem is, right? You start as an expert, you start as an engineer, and you start something which you have no idea, and then when you start working on it, it's not something what you thought of. This is the startup thing goes like this, right? This is what most people do. They start up like this, straight away after a certain time, it goes like this, and that's where the learning curve comes from. It takes long time, about 6 to 8 to 9 months, depending what background you come from, to get to that level. So I'm going to go through really, really quickly, right? How to make a startup really successful? You need 3 kind of people to make a startup. I'm just sort of generalizing it. You need more people, but you need these type of people, right? So you certainly need an entrepreneur, the guy who's with a vision, the guy who actually talks about the future, the guy who actually tells you the dream, the guy who's like selling the dream, like Steve Jobs kind of person. He's not the guy who's going to do the work. He's the guy who's talked about the dream all the time about the dream. The other guy is the engineer. Engineer is the artist. Steve Wozniak type of guy who's right at the back, who's sitting in the middle of the night constructing computers. That is the guy, he's an engineer. You also need a manager, the guy who manages, operations guy. So you need 3 type of people to make any startup successful. This is what it is. One of the biggest things, and I've seen it again and again, it happens, a lot of business people think their idea is very unique. And they want to work on that idea, and it hasn't been tried before. And what they do is they just go and try and error. They say, I'm going to try it, I'm going to do trial and error, I'm going to try and fail. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a long, long time. I've spent 18 years doing trial and error. You don't want to do trial and error. Trial and error doesn't work. It's better to go and ask people who have done it. It's way too quicker. You know, so speak to the people who have done it and they help you out. So my mentor always said, success leaves clues. You don't need to do it by yourself. Get somebody else to ask for help and they'll be happy to help you. I usually say in my presentations, a cup of coffee can change your life. If you go out, ask people for coffees, they'll help you share their ideas. They're happy to share their wisdom. Go and ask for coffees. LinkedIn is available. Message people. I want to catch up for a coffee. Can you help us out? Remember what we said earlier. The apple doesn't fall from the tree. The reason it is we all trying to do things. We all trying to start up something based on our skill set, which is perfect. This is the best thing to do. But because we don't know how to do it, that's why the reason we fail. The easiest and simple business in the world is the business based on your skill set. You need to do anything which you do, which you are very, very, very familiar with. Because that's what we do, right? So if you're working in a technician, if you're working in IT, you will think of an IT business. If you are a doctor, you will think of a doctor business. If you're a dentist, you would open up a dentist practice. If you're a blockchain expert, you're trying to become a blockchain advisor or consultant, or trying to do a blockchain startup. That's what most of us do. Issues. Apprentice and masters misalignment. And this is something people don't understand. What happens is, say I work for IBM and I work for Oracle. I used to be an enterprise architect, right? Get paid really good money. But when I did my startup, what happened in that space? Before that, I was up high. I used to go and speak to the CEO, CIO, CFO at Telstra level. Straight away when I did the startup, I was right at the bottom. Nobody was talking to me. I was calling people, I want to sell you something, I want to have a meeting with them. They didn't want to meet me. They did not actually want to meet me. All the people who made promises, they didn't turn up. All the people who said they will help me, they didn't buy. That happens. So think of that. I was here. On my startup, I was right at the bottom. I had to learn to become an apprentice. That's where the problem is. Misalignment. Or we can call it identity crisis. That's where the problem comes. Because you were a master at something, now you become apprentice. And we don't adjust to that being an apprentice. We don't like it. Our inner thing doesn't like it. We don't like to be rejected. Because you think that you were the boss. Now you have to go and speak and call people. And that's where the problem comes. The biggest learning for me is become an apprentice. Say that to yourself, I'm an apprentice. I'm going to go and learn this new thing, which I don't know how to do it. The moment you say that, your inner thing started to respond back based on the same thing what you just said. Rather than trying to fight it, you say, I'm an apprentice now, let me learn this new thing, whatever it is, whether it's a blockchain, whether it's learning how to do ICO, whether it's learning how to write a white paper, whatever it is, say that you're an apprentice, right? It works really well, believe me, I tried it so many times. How to fix the issue, become an apprentice again. This is an example, right? I just want to give you an example, got it from the Blockchain.io website. These are the partners here as well. Look at this, what's happening today. I don't know if you guys have noticed it. Cryptocurrency and blockchain are becoming a hot trend. We all know that. Listing of blockchain skills skyrocketed in the last 1 year. Projects, there are about 5,000 ICOs happening at the moment. And if every ICO need about 10 to 15 advisors, we need about 50,000 advisors globally today. That's a lot of people we need. And this is a skill set becoming highly valuable. The biggest thing I also have noticed is the people who are an advisor today, it's not coming from the background from a technical space. Who has seen that somebody just worked somewhere, invested in cryptocurrency in the last 3 years, and he's an advisor now to the company, right? So this is what's happening. If you look at the white paper and look at the advisors now, and I sometimes look at the white paper and see that people coming from what their background is, they have no business experience, they have nothing at all, and the other advisors, they don't have technical skills, they never worked in a company before in that space, and now they're advising, right? So you can be an advisor, you can be anything in that space, but as long as you learn that skill, you are spending time learning the skill. If you are an investor and you are an investor advisor, that is, you know. So I don't know if you have noticed that, but most of us haven't learned this thing. We all sort of discovered it. We sort of started walking on that path, we started discovering things. This is what happened in the blockchain space. Blockchain has got 4 markets within the blockchain space. One is the investor market, and most of the people start this blockchain space as an investor. They think that we need to buy and sell cryptocurrency. That's where most of the people get started. But there are 3 other markets as well. One is the business market, that you can actually do a startup. We heard the pictures today. These are the guys who's doing a startup in this space. Currency market, we heard the Beam, exactly the currency market. What they're doing? Facilitating the buying and selling. They are the currency market. That's what they're doing. But last one is the carrier market as well. It's a huge market today at a global level. People working within the blockchain space. They're actually helping people to do either startup or either actually advising them on a startup as well. So, one of the biggest myths is, and I've seen it again, who heard this myth? That if you work on a blockchain, you don't get paid fiat. Who heard that? Has anybody heard that? Yeah? Yeah. So, this is a myth. I can promise you, I've been working from the last couple of years, always got paid in fiat, and that's a blockchain project. What does an expert do? If you're a blockchain expert, let's talk about a blockchain or any expert. If you're an advisor and an expert in any place, what's the biggest job as an expert you have? Can anybody tell me? As an expert, what do you do? Sorry? Advise, yeah. So what do you advise about? What do you say to the advice? Like,
trying to steer them in the right direction.
Yeah, good point. Anybody else? Yeah? The biggest thing we do is we move people forward. The way we work with people, we just steer them at somewhere they want to go, right? Not the way I want them to go, wherever they want to go. We move them forward. And that's what the people do in the blockchain space as well. That's what we do, help people move forward in that space. Blockchain business ICO. Anybody working on the ICO today here? Yeah, ICOs? So you're going to find this. So I'm going to do a bit of shift here. That was early on with about any other business or any other startup you want to do. But this one specifically, I want to talk about ICOs. The reason I want to talk about ICO is because that's where everybody in this space, especially in this room, want to go towards ICO, right? They want to start up a business, they want to do an ICO. So personally, not invested, I won't talk about investment, but reviewed and worked with about 50 companies globally today in the last 3 years, working as an advisor, right? Not about investment advisor. Have nothing to do with investment. I don't know how to do it. I personally suck at it, seriously. Don't ask my advice to buy something because I don't know how to do it, but I'm really good at company stuff, right? How to make a business successful, I'm good at it. This is ICO. What's the goal for an ICO? Move the next stage of the project, right? So I want to talk about something very unconscious stuff. As a human, unconsciously, we all want to be part of something big. Remember that whenever we work on something, whenever you see a project, right? These guys pitched today, and if they wanted to be asking you guys to work as an advisor, remember that unconsciously, when we choose something, when we want to work at somebody, at some company, we always wanted to be part of something bigger. We always do that. Remember when your soccer team wins or when your footy team wins, we dance around it. Like, even though you don't even know the players, you haven't personally met them, but we just like it. Why? Because unconsciously, we always want to be something bigger. You know, that's why we celebrate, because any other team wins. Even though, think of that, if any of these teams today ended up raising 500 million in next month, you would have been saying to everybody that I've seen their first pitch. You'll see that. You'll say that, definitely, that I've seen that. I'll say that, I judge their pitch. You know, just because we all want to be something bigger. We all want to be part of something bigger. So, if we all want to be part of something bigger, and we all have a great ideas, why don't people just give us the money? Right? Why don't they just give us the money? Because money is, we want that, right? Our idea is good, why don't they just give us the money? Before we talk about that, we need to understand what's the reason for the money, right? Money is nothing but an exchange of value. Just nothing but an exchange of value. To understand money and the value, we really need to look at what is the value. What do we mean by value? How do you actually describe value? Because for me, say for example, 3 pitches happened today. All of us looked at these pitches very differently, from different side of the brain. We didn't actually look at it exactly. So if I looked at something, one of you didn't look at it exactly that way as well. You looked at it very differently. You looked at it, what value you're getting out of that. And we all look at values very, very differently. Let me quickly tell you what is actually value means. So these are the 4 things, right, about values. We have accounting values, we have economic value, we have a marketing value, we have a math value, exactly with the numbers. So these are the values. I'm not going to go through all of them, but very quickly, all of us are in this 3rd stage for ICO. For any startup, we work on the marketing. We work on a perceived value. All of us work on a perceived value at everything. So number 1 goal for any startup, for any business we do, we need to work on a perceived value, not any other value. So say for example, if I do something, somebody says to me, I want to spend $20,000 fixing my operations within my startup. I need somebody to manage all the emails. I need all of that, and I want to spend $20,000. Or the other person comes in and say, I want to spend $20,000, and I want to build a good website, and I want to put good banners, so I can actually go out and tell people. Which one do you think is going to increase the perceived value? Internal operations, or the website of these banners? Website and banner, right? That's a perceived value for external people. That's what the biggest mistake is. If you're working on a startup, I highly recommend it work on a perceived value, not any other values. Because it's going to be waste of money, waste of time, waste of energy. This is a question you can ask. Will it increase our perceived value whenever you're doing any task? Investors don't care about your idea, they care about ROIs. I don't know, I hope you guys know that. None of the investors care how you look like, what's your idea look like, and anything. They only care about the ROI, right? That's what they're looking for. Who are you targeting? That's the biggest thing as well. So before we talk about money and how you can get money, you need to understand that who you're actually targeting. Because the investor or VCs we talk about, they are target market for us because we want their money, right? So it's like exactly selling something to them and getting the money in return. So the different type of investors, I don't know if you guys ever looked at it, but the different market out there. Angel investors, mom and dad investor in this country, we've got quite a lot. VC firms and also banks. And in this space, we're not talking about banks because they're not going to give us anything for ICOs. But the other people who can give us the money are the angel investor, mom and dad, and the VC firms. Can anybody tell me the difference between angel investor and VC firms? Angel investor and VC firms, what's the difference? And yeah?
Angels are the first money
Yes.
VCs are more like second, third stage.
Now that's a different stage, but what's the difference between who is an angel investor and who is a VC firm?
An angel investor is an individual, a VC firm is an actual institution.
Cool, very good, thank you, thank you. Yes, like entrepreneurs like me who made money and now we invest in something else, basically. That's the angel investors. VC firms are the firms put together just for one purpose: invest and raise funds and get an ROI. There's a lot out there. How to seek the right investors? This is very quickly. Network with investors. Attend networking event. Don't cold call or email. Hope you guys know that. Don't just message them. Develop investors term sheets. Have you heard of this thing called term sheets? Yeah, good. That's good. Consider equity options for initial funding. I don't know if you guys notice it. Within the ICO world, we don't do this, but a lot of investors don't like it because I'm talking from the other side now. A lot of investors don't like it. So if you are working on an ICO and you need money and you can't work without their money, you need to start thinking about equity as well, not just the coins. Like tokens don't have values until your business works. So the first thing you need is the business need to work. Type of investor you need to avoid. These are the people you shouldn't talk to, or you shouldn't even go to them, because not all investors are equal. I don't know if you know that. Avoid investors who are also litigators. These are people, the lawyers, the people who actually go to take pretty much everybody to the court. Stay away from that because you don't want to spend time going to the court all the time. Avoid the investors who ask you to sign the huge contracts. I've invested or asked for the investment in 2014 and we went to the VC firm. And this is how the pitch went. I stood up and gave pitch for like about 20, 30 minutes. And at the end, they spent about a couple of hours in their boardroom going through it. They had lawyers and everybody. And at the end, they came back with this much contract at like about a booklet, which I had to sign the same day. That didn't give me any chance to take it out and show it to my lawyers, nothing at all. So avoid that kind of people because you don't know what's in that booklet, right? So don't sign it, anything like that.
Did you sign it?
I'm here. Not. I didn't. No, I didn't do it. No. I just ran after that, right? Said no. That's where I learned the difference between VC firms and the angel investor, because before that I had no idea. I thought all the investors are the same. They just have money. That's it. So avoid the investors who try to take all the company decision making. We don't have it in here, imperial investors, but it happens in other part of the world quite a lot. If you are one of those people who are saying that you need other people's money to start your business, they actually take on the decision making as well. So just keep that in mind. If you give somebody the right, you probably don't have the right to run the business properly. So keep that in mind as well. This is a pretty interesting one. You probably have met, if you're doing a startup, that a lot of people chat with you about they have money, they want to invest money, but they don't actually have money. So don't waste your time in that sort of space. The biggest thing I always did, and you might want to try it as well if you're working on something, have some sort of form. Google Forms work really well, and send them some sort of startup or form, something which they need to fill it. If they have money, they'll fill it and send it back to you really nicely. If they don't, they will stop it, because you need to have a gatekeeper. You don't want to just go and start meeting people for coffees and catch-ups. Waste a lot of time. Believe me, I spend a lot of time and money spending and doing this. It's way too much waste of time. You don't want to do that. You want to work on your business, not just meeting people who don't even have money. Don't pay the final fee, connector fees. A lot of people, I think, you need to trust people, right, in the middle. A lot of people just say that they want to connect to you, but they don't do anything what they're supposed to be doing. So just keep that in mind. You have to have a trust with people. Some tips: learn to talk the business lingo. If you're not in part of that, just learn that. You don't get live what you want. I already said that. Business is the flow of energy. If you can't measure it, it won't work. Measure everything. I always say that. If you have a startup and you're working on a business, you need to learn to measure everything. Measure everything. Anything you do, measure it. Don't outsource your PR. This is another bigger one. People usually say that I need to outsource my PR. I need to hire somebody to do my social media. I need to hire other companies to do the PR kind of work. Don't do it, it just wastes time for you. Learn to explain your idea in 1-2 minutes, because what happens is, who understand the concept of framing or frame control? Has anybody heard that concept? So, one of the biggest things is when you pitch or when you speak or present to somebody, the way the idea is pitched is not received by the same brain, right? Exactly the way you're pitching, it's not received by them in the same brain. The brain who's receiving is called the crocodile brain. So the moment I'm saying it, if I started saying straight away, all right, I'm going to give you the forms now, fill up the forms and sign up, and I'm going to give you 100 tokens as part of my company straight away. Your croc brain just wakes up and straight away. Is there any danger in that space? Do I need to kill it or eat it? So what you started doing is you close off in that space. If I'm pitching for that, that's what people think on the other side, right? So need to have the idea intrigued, done really well, because if you have idea which you can't explain in a couple of minutes, it's just not intriguing because people get bored. 3 questions you must ask: what do you need, and what are you willing to give up? How are you going to provide the ROI? What success means to you? This is, I came up with, these are the things which made, I don't know, about 100 ICOs and the companies I reviewed in the last couple of years who managed to raise funds. So my target was to review the company stats, review the way they done the work and how they did it, what system they followed, and create steps and patterns based on that. So this is what I came up with. Number 1 thing, the company needs to have a purpose. If you don't have a purpose, like anything else, it's just no meaning, because a lot of people just start to think that they can just bring blockchain into it and it works really well. So, do you have a business? Does your idea work without blockchain? That's the question people are asking. A lot of people who ended up raising a lot of money, their idea did not work that well without blockchain. That idea was solely for blockchain. And that's why they ended up raising a really good amount of money. Legals, you guys probably know that. You need this. I'll put a roller thing, it's a quote there, which is pretty funny. The 9 most terrifying words in the English dictionary is, I'm from government, I'm here to help. And this is, you need to remember that, right? If in this country, we don't have any idea yet that how things are going to work out, but these are the things you need to make sure if you're setting up KYCs, corporate formation, crowdfunding, security laws, privacy law. I think Blockchain Centre provides that sort of information. So, white paper, all this information is what do you need in the white paper. You can take a photo if you like, all that. This is what you need in the white paper. If you don't have it, you're going to be spending way too much money and time adding information in the white paper which is not required. There's 2 papers we need to remember, right? One is a white paper, the other one is a technical document. White paper is business document. You need to have a high level. These are the things you must have it. But technical, you explain technical stuff in detail in there. So don't explain all the technical information about 50 to 80 pages in the white paper. So this is what you need to have in the white paper. Website, a lot of website I've reviewed after that as well. These are things you must have on the website as well. Subscription form, videos, roadmap, description of ICO team, press anything if you have, description of product, working cases, document terms and conditions, partners, and contact of social channel, which is standard, but a lot of people forget. They don't remember that. This is very standard for any website you look at it. This is standard stuff, right? So, social channels. This is in this country. If you are applying it, if you are actually doing any of the ICO work, if you're doing anything, you must follow this on these channels. There's a channel followed by all the people. Place your project on ICO website, standard. Teams, this is one of the most important things. You need to have a good team behind you. If you don't have a good team behind you, it's really hard to raise funds because that's what people look at it. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to make the business successful. Like if I look at a traditional business in which we've been doing it for a long, long time, you have a good team. This is not an exception. So we need to have a good team. Token technology, decide what sort of token you're going to have, what sort of, whether you're going ERC20 or any other tokens. This is the must thing for any of the blockchain projects you're doing. Marketing and launch. I think These are the steps: a private sale, pre-sale, ICO, journal sale. You need to decide which sort of tokens, what sort of cap size, all that you're going to be doing it as well. Just some people randomly just pick one number, and they say we're going to have that many tokens, and the price is going to be this much, and this is what's going to be in the seed, this is what's going to be in the pre-ICO private sale. So you need to be able to explain that why you're going towards that way. What's the reason behind it? Don't just pick a number because everybody's doing it. Spread the word, build a community. All these community websites, you're going to start doing it. Video and private events are still the best conversions. One of the best things works today, and for any other project you're doing within the ICO, the blockchain space, is called a roadshow. If you're not doing a roadshow, means that you are not, either you already raised the funds you have. If you want to raise more funds, or if you want to raise or speak to a lot of people, roadshow is the best way to do it today. I don't know what's going to be tomorrow, but today is the roadshow. You're working on something, do a roadshow. This is another very quickly, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's really hard to start doing things. Do this thing, very important, allow enough time to create all this before the actual ICOs. Proofread all your documents, end-to-end process, depends who you hire. If you're doing a trial and error, probably going to take a couple of years. If you're hiring somebody who can help you with that, it takes about 3 months to actually get to the market. Just talking about the blockchain, I'm talking about MVPs and other stuff, just to do the documentation to begin with, to get you started in the path. So this is something, the skill set. So what I do is, as I said earlier, help people start up the consulting stuff. If you're looking to start a business based on your skill set, whether it's a blockchain, whether it's something else, I usually do the workshops. That's our next workshop coming up very soon. Check it out on this website. That's it for me today. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Jag, what do you say to people when they say how much does it cost to do an ICO? For instance, I typically say between 300,000 and 1.5 million, depending on complexity. What do you say?
I usually say, what project are you working on? Remember that if you answer the question, then they don't think. So the question has to be not answered in a way, answered in a way so that they can start thinking. Because they have, or people think, everything is a cookie cutter approach, right? Everything is a bucket. I want to put this in this bucket, I want to put this in this bucket. If they ask you the price, they're trying to put that stuff into the same bucket somewhere. So you need to get them out of that bucket and say, what are you trying to do? So they explain the idea. I don't know, what do you think? How long it's going to take? I usually go through the process because people, the first question is like this, but the next one is sort of go into the deep discussion after that. Depends the context we need. Yeah.
Just to follow on that, we tried to run an ICO earlier in the year.
Yeah.
We were quoted close to 300,000, 400,000. We had pre-commitments in pre-ICO of roughly $3 million US.
Yeah.
We couldn't do KYC, so we abandoned it. Because we were working on a security project
Yeah,
for
yeah.
law enforcement.
Yeah.
So we just couldn't go in that. So we've converted over to a startup blockchain only.
Yeah.
300,000 has now trickled down as a startup to 50,000 expenses.
Yeah.
So just so people know.
But
there are not a lot of people in that space just
Yeah.
doing blockchain startups.
But think of that as times have changed as well, right? So a long time ago, if you're talking last year, long time in this space, last year was a long time ago. If you were in this space trying to do a startup last year or year before that, not that many people were here, right? Everybody was just doing what they thought was right. But now it's a lot of businesses coming in, a lot of people getting educated. So it's now becoming easier and easier in that space. So people have also sort of put together the process. It doesn't take them long to do all that now because people have already done that.
But I mean, but what about the legislative issues? I mean, still government's looking at ICOs as securities.
Yeah.
So this little window of saying that you can do it.
Yeah. Can't say anything about the way the government's always going to be there, right? So it doesn't matter what we do, where we go, they're always going to be there. Yeah, so unfortunately I'm not the guy to say how they're going to do it next 6 months or when they're going to do it. My thing is, if you want to do it here, that's good. Fly somewhere else. It's easy these days. in Malta.
Did you say do not outsource PR?
Yes.
So why is that? Isn't it that you should do what you're really good at, and if you are a technician or engineer, you do that.
Absolutely.
And then you seek out someone else's support to actually spread the word out.
Perfect question. I'm glad you asked. Thank you. Very good question, because I truly believe in what I said, that you do what you do it good at. But I said don't outsource it. What I meant is don't hire somebody else, the firm, to do it. You get people inside in your company to do the work. Don't outsource somebody to say, do in some other country to just do a Facebook post. Don't do that kind of stuff, because that's going to be a waste of money. A lot of people have started doing it. They say, we're going to charge you $3,000, and these are 5, 6, 10 things we do every month for you, or every week for you. That's just a waste of money, because there is nothing behind it they're working on. They're just executing as an operations. You can have that if you have a strategy behind it. Don't just randomly do it, because what I used to do, I randomly did stuff. So if there is no strategy behind it, then it's just a waste of time. Cool? All right. Thank you. Thanks, guys.